Chapter 447. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 449. One Sacred, One Highness, and One Emperor. The short 23 words felt like a thunderclap exploding in the hearts of the crowd. Quick update: the website is refreshing with fewer advertisements. I love this kind of website the most. Please leave a good review. At that instant, be it the peak leaders, the geniuses, or the disciples of the Feiyang sacred area, they were all left speechless by the figure before them. A single person, a saber, an existence with the aura of the peak martial emperor realm, destroying the city gate on his own, declaring war on the entire Feiyang sacred area. Throughout the history of the lower district, who would be so daring? Especially Jiang Bailan, the 7 prospective saints of the Qinglong sacred area, Zhou Xian, Lu Tiangang, Court Master Jin, Chen Ying, Chen Fei, and the others. Their hearts were filled with astonishment. No one would have thought that Qin Nan would be so daring. Qin Nan! A furious roar exploded above Feiyang City, which turned out to be Yang Fengzhu's voice. You chose not to take the path to heaven, but chose to come to hell on your own accord. I will surely torture you for 100 years for the crimes you've committed today, making you suffer a fate worse than death. Yang Fengzhu's anger shook the sky as he reached out his hand, which shrouded the sky and the sun. A powerful force was emitted as he slapped downward in Qin Nan's direction, intending to capture Qin Nan alive. At that instant, he was truly enraged, even more furious than the fact that Qin Nan had killed his son. What did it mean to have the gates of the city destroyed by someone? A great sacred area with countless experts and resources was destroyed by Qin Nan, who only possessed the aura of the peak martial emperor realm. It was highly possible that he would be mocked by the cultivators of the lower district for 1,000 years, as a great humiliation. Buzz! At that instant, a sharp, imperious saber glow was fired from a distance away, which instantly shattered Yang Fengzhu's giant hand into pieces. Read the full article. Who's there? The anger on Yang Fengzhu's face intensified. The expressions of the other peak leaders and the 2 city lords also changed. Who was it that dared to challenge the Feiyang sacred area together with Qin Nan? Whoosh! It was neither glamorous nor imposing. A black saber flew across the sky and stabbed into Feiyang City. At that instant, Yang Fengzhu, the city lord of the Slaughter City, the city lord of the Gambling City, the leader of the Trading Alliance, the peak leaders, and the experienced martial dominator realm cultivators felt the memories that had been sealed in their minds for many years surging like a tide, causing their hearts to explode with an icy aura. This black saber represented a legend of the lower district. This black blade had cut off the heads of influential figures one after another. It was stained with the blood of countless people, causing people to tremble in fear upon hearing its name. Tang Qinshan, you're actually not dead. Yang Fengzhu's eyes were filled with terror as he let out a scream. A few hundred years ago, when he was still a martial dominator realm expert, he had been beaten up by Tang Qinshan several times. If it weren't for his trump card, he would have died under the black saber's slash. The fear was deeply engraved in his heart. When the name was uttered, a series of explosions took place in the hearts of the crowd. The Imperial Exterminator! The Imperial Exterminator had returned to the world. Only Qin Nan and a few others knew that Tang Qinshan was still alive. Although the Feiyang sacred area and the Trading Alliance had tried their best to find out the truth, they were unable to find any clues. Whoosh! Tang Qinshan's figure landed on Qin Nan's left side and drew out the black saber. His eyes flickered with a tremendous murderous intent as he stared at the figures rising into the sky from the city. A few hundred years ago, you set me up and made me go into hiding for 100 years. This time, you set up my junior brother once again. Today, all the martial highnesses here, come at me at once. I'm going to kill to my heart's content. The terrifying murderous intent was fired into the sky, causing the famous Feiyang city to tremble vigorously. The initially lively Feiyang sacred area fell into a dead silence at that instant. What was the definition of imperious? This was imperious. One man and one saber, all the peak leaders were going to die. Yang Fengzhu and the rest of the peak leaders were startled. Even though they were unwilling to accept the outcome, even though they were enraged, even though they felt humiliated, even though they had over 20 martial highnesses on their side, they did not dare to make their moves. How could they possibly bear the anger of the imperial exterminator, Tang Qingshan, for 100 years? How bold! At that instant, a ferocious roar exploded in Feiyang City, causing the weather to change rapidly. An old man sprang into the sky and stared coldly at Tang Qingshan and Qin Nan. The man was none other than Sacred Leader Feiyang. The Sacred Leader is here. Holy Master, quickly kill these two fellows. Sacred Leader. The initially silent Feiyang city was immersed in an uproar once again, as the peak leaders blurted out. Tang Qingshan, I've allowed you to escape 100 years ago. I've been searching for you for 100 years, but I did not expect you to show yourself today. Well done, well done. It was as if Sacred Leader Feiyang's aura had merged with Feiyang City, becoming the only thing that existed between the heavens and earth. His eyes turned cold as he said, "A peak martial emperor realm expert and a peak martial highness realm expert, two mere ants daring to utter such words. Die." As the word die was uttered, the sky above Feiyang City was filled with endless roars, as a grey tornado appeared out of nowhere, aiming to kill Qin Nan and Tang Qingshan straight away. Bang! At that instant, a withered giant hand shattered the space. With a single slap, the terrifying gale vanished without a trace. Roar! 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 At that instant, the people of the Feiyang sacred area were utterly astonished by the sight before them. 10 illusionary figures of azure dragons, each over 100 zhang long, appeared in the heavens and earth, with ferocious gazes and terrifying fangs, uttering roars into the sky. It was as if each roar was capable of crushing all living things to death. In the middle of the 10 azure dragons stood an old man. The old man was covered in a deathly aura, as if he was going to die at any second. Despite that, the aura emitted from his body felt like it was supporting the entire sky. The person was none other than the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon of the Qinglong sacred area. You! Sacred Leader Feiyang's eyes widened. Ha 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 ha! The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon glanced at the figures that filled the entire Feiyang city and burst out laughing. I'm just being reckless. You bunch of assholes have been plotting against me for over 200 years. Even Qin Nan dares to destroy your sacred area with a single punch. Why would I, the Sacred Leader, be afraid of you? Come, if I don't fight to the death, I won't be able to rest in peace. Chapter 448. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 450. Killing 3 people in a row. The people of the Feiyang sacred area, including the Sacred Leader and the disciples, were utterly astonished by the sight before them. Access. Throughout the history of the lower district, although many battles had taken place between the Feiyang sacred area and the Qinglong sacred area, the Sacred Leader had never shown up in person like today. Could it be that they were going to fight to the death? Sacred Leader Feiyang's eyes flickered. For the past 300 years, he had never dared to harm the Qinglong sacred area as he was intimidated by the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Even though the birthday of the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon was approaching, he still did not dare to attack. Not only him, even that big shot from the upper province wouldn't dare to do so. This was because the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon's cultivation was unfathomable and mysterious. If he were to go crazy, who knew how terrifying he would be? Sacred Lord Blue Dragon, if we really want to fight, it won't benefit either of us. You are well aware of the current situation. Once the Ocean of Death is activated, The geniuses from both sides will decide the outcome of the battle. Sacred leader Feiyang withheld his anger and spoke in a calm tone. The eyes of the other peak leaders flickered, not daring to utter a single word. If the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon and Tang Qingshan really went crazy, no matter what the final outcome of the battle was, both sides would definitely suffer. It might even affect the Ocean of Death's plan. If the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon did not care about his lifespan and died in battle, then what was the point of them going to the Sea of Death? The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon and Tang Qingshan did not say anything. Love Go Little Sei Ku Xiao Zhonghuang Jiang Bailan, all the other geniuses, get the hell out here. At that instant, Qin Nan uttered a roar as the saber in his hand trembled violently. Quick update, the website is refreshing and has few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most. You must give it a good review. He did not care about the conflict between the upper echelons of the sacred area. His goal today was to destroy the entrance of the Feiyang sacred area and kill all the geniuses there. Only fresh blood could quell his anger. In the entire Holy Land, no one made a sound. As for Lu Tiangang, Zhou Xian, and the other prospective holy sons, they all knew of Qin Nan's battle prowess. If they were to accept the challenge now, they would lose without a doubt. They might even be killed. The Sacred Lord Blue Dragon glanced at his surroundings and burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, Sacred Leader Feiyang, you're right. If a war were to break out between us, it would not bring any benefits to the lower district. However, between the geniuses of our two holy lands, a victor can be determined. Hearing this, Sacred Leader Feiyang and the rest of the peak leaders instantly came to a realization. The arrival of Tang Qingshan and the arrival of the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon was not for a war, but to support Qin Nan, in order to prevent the experts from the Feiyang Holy Land from attacking. As such, the peak leaders of the Feiyang Sacred Area and the Feiyang Sacred Area let out sighs of relief in their hearts, as a cold grin appeared on their faces. Qin Nan challenged all the sky prides of the Holy Lands by himself? Everyone knew that Xiao Zhonghuang had defeated Qin Nan with ease at the Demon King's Valley. Qin Nan stood in the middle of the city and scanned the crowd with an imperious aura. Such a huge sacred area, yet no one dares to accept my challenge. What's wrong? Are all of you sky prides going to be cowards? Where's the courage you had when you tried to attack me? Hilarious, this is hilarious, extremely hilarious. Hearing this, the faces of Sacred Leader Feiyang and the peak leaders were filled with anger. The faces of the experts of the Feiyang Sacred Area turned cold too. How disrespectful! Daring to look down on the entire Qinglong Sacred Area. Senior brother Xiao Zhonghuang is currently in seclusion. Even if he's not here, this is not the place for you to act presumptuously. At that instant, a furious roar could be heard, which turned out to be one of the prospective saints of the Feiyang Sacred Area, whose name was Yang Jian. Yang Jian's cultivation had reached the first layer martial dominator realm, and he possessed a 6th grade Xian-ranked martial spirit. He was quite famous among the disciples of the Feiyang Sacred Area. As soon as he appeared, many disciples were overjoyed. Myriad stars, ominous star martial spirit, attack! Yang Jian uttered a roar as 6 mystical rays flickered. Among the mystical rays, a circle of light was emitted. The circle of light expanded all of a sudden, reaching a size of 10 zhang. It emitted a blinding glow and a strong murderous intent as it was fired in Qin Nan's direction. Yang Jian was a cultivator of the martial spirit school, thus his martial spirit was his strongest attack. Piss off! Qin Nan's eyes widened as his figure sprang forward like a cannonball with a kick. He then threw a punch forward, shattering the star martial spirit into pieces. Following this, his figure turned around and kicked Yang Jian's chest at lightning speed. A cry of agony could be heard. Under the crowd's gaze, Yang Jian's figure was sent flying like an arrow being fired, crashing into the ground of Feiyang City. His aura dissipated. An instant kill. Sacred leader Feiyang and the rest of the peak leaders were utterly dumbfounded. The entire Feiyang city was immersed in a dead silence. How was this possible? Yang Jian possessed a cultivation of the first-layer martial dominator realm. He could even stand a chance against Xiao Zhonghuang. How could such a powerful Yang Jian be killed with a single attack? Are you kidding me? Xiao Zhonghuang, Jiang Bailan, why don't you show yourselves? Qin Nan uttered a roar as his left eye emitted a thunderous glow while scanning the crowd, trying to locate the figures of the geniuses. At that instant, none of the geniuses dared to step forward, the reason being that none of them stood a chance against Qin Nan. Li Tao Yi Gu, where are you trying to hide? Die. Qin Nan's eyes caught sight of two familiar figures among the crowd, who turned out to be the two prospective saints who had betrayed the Qinglong sacred area and helped Xiao Zhonghuang to deal with him at the Demon King's Valley. With a flicker, his figure slashed toward the two figures with the saber in his hand, emitting a boundless saber intent. Li Tao and Yi Gu were planning to escape with their lives, but they did not expect to encounter such a shocking attack, causing their scalps to go numb as they screamed, "Peak leaders, save me! Qin Nan, stop it!" Peak leader Yang and the other peak leaders were both shocked and enraged as they yelled. Tang Qingshan took a step forward and swung the black saber in his hand, which struck the eyes of the peak leaders like a clap of thunder, causing them to freeze in place. Slash! Qin Nan emitted a tremendous murderous aura as he slashed downward with the saber in his hand, killing the two prospective saints on the spot, causing blood to splatter everywhere. The people of the Feiyang sacred area were astounded. These were two great prospective holy sons. And now they were killed by Qin Nan just like that? Xiao Zhonghuang, Jiang Bailan, show yourselves. Qin Nan showed no sign of stopping after killing the two prospective saints. His roar grew louder as his battle intent surged into the heavens. Chapter 449. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 451. Sweeping everything away. Why is Qin Nan so powerful? Sacred leader Feiyang, Yang Fengzhu, and the rest of the peak leaders were astounded. Love go little say, W. Chu, advertisement. -79, didn't Xiao Zhonghuang defeat Qin Nan with ease? Judging from Qin Nan's current strength, it was most likely equivalent to the third-layer martial dominator realm. Could it be that Xiao Zhonghuang had lied to them? At that instant, sacred leader Feiyang and the others came to a conclusion, causing their faces to turn incredibly unpleasant. However, since Xiao Zhonghuang was currently in seclusion, they were unable to confront him. Besides, a mere Qin Nan had challenged the entire Feiyang sacred area, yet no one dared to challenge them. If this were to be made known to the public, it would be a great humiliation. Lu Tiangang, Zhou Xian. There was no way Qin Nan would wait for the crowd to respond to his challenge. His eyes immediately locked onto their figures, before his figure sprang forward with a kick. Shit! Both Lu Tiangang and Zhou Xian's expressions changed drastically. They immediately used their movement techniques to escape from the left and the right. Trying to run away? Not on my watch. Qin Nan's figure was engulfed in the flames of the phoenix, which transformed into two giant fiery hands that grabbed their figures and dragged them toward him. The fists were encapsulated with sky thunder, before they were clenched into giant fists and hurled downward. Martial spirit unleashed. Lu Tiangang and Zhou Xian both possessed 8th grade Xian-ranked martial spirit. Their martial spirits were extremely powerful, and they both practiced the martial spirit school, thus they immediately unleashed their martial spirit. Heavenly accumulating strike. Qin Nan uttered a roar as he executed the heavenly accumulating strike, gathering the phoenix flames and the sky thunder at the tip of his fists, which transformed into fiery fists, before he hurled them downward like a ferocious storm. Bang bang bang! A series of rapid explosions took place. Quick update: the website is refreshing with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most. You must give me a good review. The former saints of the two sacred grounds, even after releasing their martial spirits, were still unable to fight back in front of Qin Nan and were beaten like two dead dogs. This punch is for me. This punch is for Miao Miao. This punch is for the Qinglong sacred area. Qin Nan was enraged as he continued to throw punches at his opponent. The people of the Feiyang sacred area could only see the two saints being smashed to the ground by Qin Nan from the sky, resulting in a huge crater. The cries of agony gradually disappeared as the punches landed on the ground, leaving behind a series of explosions that exploded in the hearts of countless people. At that instant, the faces of sacred leader Feiyang, Yang Fengzhu, and the rest of the peak leaders began to twitch, as they clenched their fists tightly while green veins popped out on their foreheads. Qin Nan's actions were not only humiliating the two saints, he was humiliating them too. However, when they saw the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and Tang Qingshan standing at the side, they had no choice but to withhold their anger. It was fine if these three guys had gone crazy, but if they all went crazy, their plan of 100 years would be ruined in a single day. It's too easy to let you guys die. From today onward, you will be cripples. Qin Nan drew out his saber and fired countless saber intents, shattering the meridians, dantian, etc. of the two saints. It was extremely difficult to repair them. After dealing with the two saints, Qin Nan glanced at his surroundings. The disciples who were caught by his gaze could feel a chill running down their spines, causing them to subconsciously take a step backward. Even the two saints were killed in an instant. They stood no chance at all. Wan Chongyan, Dao Pali, Long Shuang, Long Xian, Lu Jin. Qin Nan instantly locked his gaze onto the 5 prospective saints of the Qinglong sacred area. When Qin Nan saw the 5 of them, they could feel a chill running down their spines. Without any hesitation, they immediately reacted the same way as Zhou Xian and Qin Nan, fleeing in 5 different directions. Haha, weren't you scornful when you betrayed the Qinglong sacred area? Trying to run away now? Qin Nan burst out laughing. Under the crowd's gaze, 5 ancient sabers sprang into the sky from his back, each emitting a shocking saber intent. 100 steps soaring. Qin Nan's palm turned into a blurry shadow as he slapped at the 5 ancient sabers. Bang! 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 It was as if the 5 ancient sabers had transformed into 5 thunderbolts, which flashed past at a terrifying speed. Even the 5 prospective saints could not react in time, as the ancient sabers pierced through Winecup's chest, causing him to cry out in agony. Come here! Qin Nan did not stop there. He summoned 5 fiery hands that grabbed the 5 prospective saints and pulled them toward him. He then tossed the flying sabers aside and clenched his fists, before lashing out at their faces. Not only did you betray the Qinglong sacred area, you even colluded with Xiao Zhonghuang to help him deal with me. Are you still King Human? Qin Nan became enraged as he lashed out punches after punches like a mad demon. The entire place fell into a dead silence. The lips of sacred leader Feiyang and the peak leaders twitched even more violently. Green veins could be seen popping out on their foreheads as their auras flickered continuously. Endure. I must endure. A little impatience will mess up the great plan. Betraying your sect is a sign of heartlessness. You don't deserve to be called human. The anger in Qin Nan's chest was slightly relieved as he continued to throw punches at the 5 prospective saints. He then stopped attacking and glanced at them coldly. Without showing any mercy, he drew out the ancient sabers and slashed downward, shattering their meridians into pieces. At that instant, he showed no sign of hesitation. That was the nature of an enemy. The more lenient you were to them, the more ruthless they would be to you. Nice! Qin Nan uttered a roar. Although he had consumed a significant amount of his cultivation due to the previous burst of power, His battle intent was even stronger than before. He scanned his surroundings and uttered a roar. Is there no one else from the Feiyang sacred area? Where's Xiao Zhonghuang? Where's Jiang Bailan? Where are the prospective saints of your Feiyang sacred area? Get your asses out here and come at me at once. I alone will beat all of you. Scornful. That was too scornful. The people of the Feiyang sacred area and the peak leaders clenched their teeth while their eyes were spitting fire. A mere Qin Nan dared to be so scornful toward the entire Feiyang sacred area. Although the disciples of the Feiyang sacred area were furious, they could not help but feel helpless and sullen. Too powerful. Qin Nan was too powerful. Apart from senior brother Xiao Zhonghuang, no one would stand a chance against him. But senior brother Xiao Zhonghuang was currently cultivating in seclusion. Qin Nan, don't be too full of yourself. I'll show you how I'm going to kill you today. At that instant, a loud roar could be heard. The person was none other than Jiang Bailan. It turned out that when Qin Nan, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, and Tang Qingshan had arrived, she had already predicted the situation. Thus she immediately returned to her palace to retrieve her weapon to deal with Qin Nan. Is that so? Qin Nan squinted his eyes as an icy glow was emitted from them once again. Jiang Bailan. Chapter 450. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 452. Crushing the enemy. The people of the Feiyang sacred area were startled, as they did not expect Jiang Bailan to appear at this moment. With Qin Nan's battle prowess, shouldn't she have escaped earlier? Little did they know that Jiang Bailan was a woman of extraordinary intelligence. She had a perfect grasp of the situation. Therefore, instead of retreating, she advanced. She wanted to take advantage of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to completely eliminate Qin Nan. Prospective saints of the Feiyang sacred area, I have a way to eliminate him. Tell me all the martial skills that you are good at. Open your minds and let me control you. Set up the formation and eliminate him. Jiang Bailan immediately transmitted her voice to the prospective holy sons. The prospective saints were initially stunned by Qin Nan's massacre, but after hearing Jiang Bailan's words, they immediately agreed. If they were to let Qin Nan continue to wreak havoc, not only would the Feiyang sacred area lose its reputation and suffer a great loss, the sacred leader and the peak leaders would surely become enraged and blame them for it. It would be better for them to work together and kill Qin Nan. At that time, they would even be rewarded. No matter how heaven-defying Qin Nan was in the face of their alliance, he would still be completely defeated, right? Heart-devouring martial spirit. Under the crowd's gaze, Jiang Bailan uttered a roar and unleashed her martial spirit. With the ability of her martial spirit, she immediately controlled the 10 prospective saints of the Feiyang sacred area, turning them into her puppets. 4 directions spear annihilation. It was as if Jiang Bailan had transformed into a female general, commanding the crowd. She ordered the prospective saints to stand in the north, south, east, and west respectively. Following this, each of the prospective saints emitted a mystical glow as their martial spirits were summoned. Artifacts and martial arts were activated, resulting in a tremendous aura. Jiang Bailan formed hand seals and shot out array flags, which were inserted behind each of the prospective saints, outlining the formation. Advertisement 1. As the formation was formed, the 10 prospective saints formed a 4-sided formation. The aura emitted from the formation formed the outline of a giant spear. The spear floated in midair, covered in the color of blood. A murderous aura was emitted from the tip of the spear, causing the crowd to feel a chill down their spines. What a great Jiang Bailan! Sacred leader Feiyang and the peak leaders were astounded, before their faces were filled with joy. Even Xiao Zhonghuang would not stand a chance against such a formation, thus killing Qin Nan would be a piece of cake. Not to mention, Qin Nan had already consumed a lot of energy. The face of the leader of the trading alliance flickered with a hint of pride. He had been providing Jiang Bailan with tremendous resources not only because of her talent, but also because of her intelligence. Qin Nan. Die. Jiang Bailan's eyes flickered with a hint of hesitation, which was soon replaced by excitement. Her plan had been foiled by Qin Nan every single time, causing her to suffer a great setback. Now that the formation of the spear had been formed, how could Qin Nan survive? Bang! The 10 prospective saints dashed toward Qin Nan at the same time. The power of the spears was even more terrifying, as a terrifying storm burst out from the tip of the spears. In just the blink of an eye, the area within 50 meters of Qin Nan was encapsulated, leaving him no chance to escape. At that instant, the crowd of the Feiyang sacred area was astounded, as their hearts were filled with joy. "Ha! The Saintess is so impressive! Such a powerful formation! Even a 4th-layer martial dominator realm cultivator would be killed by it. Qin Nan, that's what you get for being so smug. You're dead meat this time. Once he dies, I'll hang his corpse in Feiyang City for 100 years. The disciples, who had been suppressed by Qin Nan to begin with, began to mock him after seeing the tables turning. Meanwhile, Tang Qingshan and the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon in mid-air wore calm expressions, as if they were not worried at all. Trying to kill me with a mere formation of spears? Great, come at me all at once, so I don't have to deal with you one by one. Qin Nan showed no sign of fear on his face. Instead, his eyes were filled with a boundless battle intent. Bang! With a kick, his figure dashed toward the formation of spears instead of backing off. What is he trying to do? Sacred Leader Feiyang and the peak leaders were astounded. Was this guy out of his mind? Was he trying to face the formation head-on? Law-defying nascent soul, 10,000 formations, suppress at once. Qin Nan scanned with his left eye and immediately discovered that the weakest point of the formation was at the center. He then spat out a nascent soul with 22 golden dragon lines coiled around it, which sprang into the sky and suppressed the center of the formation with an unimaginable force. Bang! Countless lightning bolts and flames were fired from the nascent soul, which encapsulated the entire formation, preventing it from moving. The expressions of Sacred Leader Feiyang and the others changed slightly. Jiang Bailan's expression froze too. They did not expect Qin Nan to possess such a terrifying nascent soul. It was only a nascent soul, a martial ancestor realm nascent soul. Heavenly accumulating strike. Qin Nan uttered a roar as he accumulated the flames, lightning, saber intent, and his will, which formed a light dot at the tip of his finger, before he flicked it downward into the formation. Bang! Everyone was dumbfounded. The formation that they thought was powerful enough to eliminate Qin Nan was shattered into pieces by Qin Nan's attack. How was this possible? How was it possible for this Qin Nan to be so powerful? As the formation was shattered, the figures of the 10 prospective saints were severely injured, as they were knocked to the ground. Even Jiang Bailan, who was controlling the formation, felt her aura drop to the bottom. How is this possible, Qin Nan? You've already consumed a significant amount of your energy. How could you still possess such a law-defying strength? This doesn't make any sense. Jiang Bailan completely lost her calm after seeing this. Her plan had failed once again. Cut the crap. Before Jiang Bailan could finish her sentence, Qin Nan, whose breathing intensified and forehead was covered in a layer of cold sweat, uttered a roar as his aura weakened. Following this, he lashed out with his fist without mercy, landing a punch onto her face. Bang! Following a loud crash, Jiang Bailan's nose was broken, causing her to utter a cry of agony. Qin Nan became even angrier after seeing her reaction. Since he had arrived at the lower district, he had been tricked by this woman continuously, which had caused him to make enemies out of nowhere. Bang! 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 The crowd could only see Qin Nan lashing out punches after punches, as if he had gone mad. The sound of bones being shattered was transmitted into their ears, causing them to shiver in fear. From today onward, I'll let you know what it feels like to be a piece of trash. Qin Nan was worn out after lashing out a few hundred punches. He immediately drew out his ancient saber, and unleashed a saber intent in Jiang Bailan and the 10 prospective saints' direction, as he was planning to cripple them all. Stop it! The faces of sacred leader Fei Yang and the other peak leaders in the sky changed. If these 10 prospective saints and Jiang Bailan were to die, Xiao Zhonghuang would be the only genius of the Feiyang sacred area left. There was no way they would allow this to happen. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon and Tang Qingshan squinted their eyes and emitted an icy aura, causing the movements of sacred leader Feiyang and the others to stiffen. At that instant, Qin Nan's saber was less than 3 inches away from the crowd's meridians. However, at that instant a rare occurrence took place. All of you, stop what you are doing. A roar that felt like it came from above the 9 heavens exploded above Feiyang City. Chapter 451. A Genius Will Remember Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? Sagnet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 453. Dare or not, an unimaginable suppression was emitted from the sky, blasting the hearts of the crowd, causing countless disciples to tremble in fear. A love go little say, W. Chu. Such a quick update. Even the surroundings of Feiyang City were filled with cracks, resulting in a terrifying sight. Shush! A figure descended from the sky. The figure was an old man wearing a purple robe, with a square face and 2 white mustaches. His hair was tied up with a purple golden hairpin, giving him the appearance of a Taoist priest. Sect leader! Sect leader! Sacred leader Feiyang Yang Fengzhu, and the rest of the peak leaders wore joyful expressions on their faces as they blurted out. The disciples of the Feiyang sacred area were stunned, as they did not expect the reputable sacred leader Feiyang to address this old man as sect leader. Who exactly was this old man? Disciples of the Feiyang sacred area, listen up. This is the sect leader of the Tao-seeking mountain, one of the 4 great factions of the eastern continent of the Upper District. He is also the great elder of our Feiyang sacred area. Yang Fengzhu raised his head and uttered a roar. The crowd was astounded after hearing the words. Eastern continent of the Upper District. According to the rumors, the Upper District was split into 5 continents, and their lower district was connected to the Eastern continent. This old man was the sect leader of the Tao-seeking mountain, one of the 4 great factions of the Eastern continent. How terrifying! The factions of the eastern continent of the upper district were incomparable to the 2 sacred areas of the lower district. Greetings, great elder! Greetings, great elder! The initially murderous atmosphere of the Feiyang sacred area changed instantly at that instant, as the disciples immediately brought their fists together with a respectful attitude. Only the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and Tang Qingshan remained calm. Qin Nan halted the slash in his hand as he glanced at the sect leader of the Tao-seeking mountain. Full text reading: this old man was obviously the mastermind of the century-old scheme. He was the one who was plotting against the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Are you Qin Nan? The purple-robed elder ignored everyone present, including the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and the others. He looked directly at Qin Nan. Under this gaze, Qin Nan's expression changed slightly. He could only feel a terrifying aura pressuring his soul, forcing him to kneel down in worship. However, he soon calmed down after enduring the pressure from the left eye of the divine god of battle. The old purple-robed man's eyes flickered with astonishment. Someone who was able to withstand his gaze was definitely one of the top geniuses in the eastern continent. He calmly said, Qin Nan, I can tell that your talent is extraordinary. I'll make an exception and recruit you as an inner disciple of the Tao-seeking mountain. I'll forgive all the crimes you've committed. How's that? Hearing this, sacred leader Feiyang, Yang Fengzhu, and the others were startled. If Qin Nan was recruited as a disciple of the Tao-seeking mountain, with Qin Nan's talent, his achievements would surely be extraordinary in the future. However, on second thought, since the Qinglong sacred area had lost Qin Nan, they would no longer be a threat to the ocean of death. Thus the sacred Lord Blue Dragon would no longer have any hope. Qin Nan glanced at him and turned his head away. He was too lazy to say anything. He raised his saber and was about to slash down. Leave the Qinglong sacred area? Don't even think about it. Sacred leader Feiyang and the peak leaders could feel their hearts racing seeing this. This Qin Nan was too daring to ignore the sect leader of the Tao-seeking mountain. Qin Nan. The old purple-robed man frowned and snapped. Are you aware of your current situation? Qin Nan turned his head around and glanced at him. The old purple-robed man calmly said, "The sacred Lord Blue Dragon will die in half a year's time. Even if you manage to acquire the treasure from the ocean of death, you won't be able to save his life. Once the sacred Lord Blue Dragon dies, you will no longer have the protection of an expert. Without anyone to protect you, how are you going to survive in the lower district?" Sacred leader Feiyang, Yang Fengzhu, and the others let out hollow laugh. If it weren't for the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, they would have killed Qin Nan countless times. How could they allow Qin Nan to act so scornfully? Qin Nan's expression remained the same. Of course, you might be lucky enough to survive, but what's the point? From today onward, you will be hunted down in the lower district, and you will not be allowed to enter the upper district. In the eastern continent, if I want you to die, you will die. No one will be able to save you. The old purple-robed man spoke in a calm tone, but it was accompanied by an imperious aura. If I want you to die, you will die. The old purple-robed man was indeed the sect leader of the Tao-seeking mountain. His words caused the crowd to feel their hearts beating rapidly. Now, considering your talent, I'll give you a chance to survive. Leave the Qinglong sacred area and become an inner disciple of the Tao-seeking mountain. As for what happened at Feiyang City, I'll let bygones be bygones. How's that? The eyes of the old purple-robed man flickered with a sharp look. Everyone glanced at Qin Nan. In their opinion, Qin Nan would surely accept the offer. After all, there was no benefit to staying at the Qinglong sacred area. Not interested. Qin Nan shook his head and turned his head away, as he was too lazy to be bothered by this so-called sect leader. The expressions of sacred leader Feiyang and the peak leaders changed drastically. The crowd held their breaths too. This Qin Nan was so daring, to reject the offer in such a straightforward manner. Wasn't he worried that the sect leader would be infuriated? The eyes of the old purple-robed man flickered with a murderous intent. He did not expect this Qin Nan to reject his kind invitation after ignoring it the first time. A mere genius of the lower district, who do you think you are? I'll grant you death now. The purple-robed old man emitted a murderous intent, causing the surroundings to change color. Old man, you dare to be so smug with just a mere clone? The sacred Lord Blue Dragon finally spoke with a calm expression and a calm tone. The figure of the old purple-robed man stiffened as his gaze toward the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was filled with a hint of dread. With his understanding of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, this guy was most likely planning to go crazy. Slash! At that instant, Qin Nan uttered a roar as he slashed downward with the saber in his hand. The expressions of sacred leader Feiyang and the peak leaders changed tremendously once again. They did not expect Qin Nan to dare to attack under such circumstances. Qin Nan, don't you dare! The old purple-robed man raised his eyebrows and snapped. If you dare to attack after the sacred Lord Blue Dragon's death, no one in the upper or lower district would be able to save you. Let them go at once and piss off from Feiyang City, and I won't blame you for what happened here. Bang! The entire heavens and earth began to tremble. It was as if his anger had infected the heavens and earth, causing it to be infuriated. It was merely a clone, yet it was already so oppressive. From this, it could be seen how terrifying it was. The crowd was astounded. The terrifying aura caused their hearts to stop beating, as if they were suffocating. Sacred leader Fei Yang and the peak leaders let out sighs of relief. Now that the sect leader had given the order, Qin Nan would surely let go of Jiang Bailan and the others. After all, the sect leader had already said that as long as Qin Nan let them go, he would not blame Qin Nan. Even though Qin Nan was extremely daring, there was no reason for him to be so stupid, right? The consequences of infuriating the sect leader of the Tao-seeking mountain of the upper district was not something anyone could bear. Not blame. To the crowd's surprise, Qin Nan's expression became twisted after hearing the words. Do you really think I'll let it go just because you said so? These people have been trying to kill me over and over again. Do you really think I'll let it go just because you said so? Old prick, do you think you're so great just because you're the sect leader of the upper district? Since you don't want me to slash, I'm going to do it. The saber in his hand slashed downward without mercy, shattering the meridians of Jiang Bailan and the others instantly, turning them into cripples. Chapter 452. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 454. Shocking the lower district. The purple-robed old man's eyes widened as his body began to tremble. Almost all the books you want to read are available. It's more stable than ordinary websites, and the updates are faster too. All the books are written with no advertisement. Access. He really attacked. Qin Nan really attacked. As the sect leader of the Tao-seeking mountain, it was his first time encountering a mere ant daring to disobey him and attack him. As for the people of the Feiyang sacred area, they were dumbfounded by the sight before them. How bold was Qin Nan to do that? He still dared to attack under such circumstances? This was simply lawless. Dogs of the Feiyang sacred area, listen up. Qin Nan had no idea what he had done, as he snapped in a furious tone. Ask Xiao Zhonghuang to show himself. Don't hide like a coward. Crippling Jiang Bailan and the others was not enough for him to vent his anger. He had to cripple Xiao Zhonghuang too in order to calm his anger. This kid, the hearts of sacred leader Fei Yang and the others shuddered. After disobeying the sect leader, he still dared to challenge the Feiyang sacred area and challenge Xiao Zhonghuang to a duel. Did he not have any respect for the sect leader? Qin Nan. A furious roar exploded in midair. It was as if the purple-robed old man had transformed into a demon at that instant, whose aura shook the heavens and earth. His eyes were filled with a boundless murderous intent as they locked onto Qin Nan's figure. As the sect leader of the Tao-seeking mountain, it was his first time being enraged in the past 10 years. Since when did an ant dare to provoke him? Progenitor Wendao. At that instant a loud roar could be heard, which turned out to be the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Marshmallow. As for Progenitor Wendao, he was referring to the purple-robed old man before him. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon's lifeless body was suddenly filled with boundless battle intent. He laughed maniacally and said, "Ha ha, Qin Nan has killed more than a dozen of you today. It's time for me to make my move. Qin Nan, go back to the sect first. Qin Shan, do it." The sacred Lord Blue Dragon flung his sleeve and executed a magical technique, teleporting Qin Nan's figure back to the Qinglong sacred area before Qin Nan could react. Tang Qingshan, who was standing below the sacred leader, exploded with murderous intent. One sage, one paragon. Without any warning whatsoever, they attacked the entire Holy Land. You guys, Progenitor Wendao, sacred leader Feiyang, and the others almost vomited blood. Didn't these two fellows say that they wouldn't fight? Why did they suddenly start fighting again? Shameless, extremely shameless. At that instant, the entire Feiyang sacred area was immersed in a terrifying battle, which lasted for a day and a night, before it finally came to an end. In the end, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon displayed his terrifying cultivation and eliminated progenitor Wendao's clone while severely injuring sacred leader Feiyang. On the other hand, Tang Qingshan's cultivation was unrivaled among those with the same cultivation as him, as he slain 6 peak leaders in a row. In the end, when progenitor Wendao's true self was about to arrive at the eastern continent, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and Tang Qingshan finally stopped the battle and returned to the Qinglong sacred area. The entire Feiyang sacred area suffered a great loss. The next day, in the lower district, when the shocking incident of the Feiyang sacred area was made known to every country, it instantly caused an uproar. Qin Nan displayed his strength and charged straight into the Feiyang sacred area, breaking the gate with a single punch, killing 2 saints and crippling 18 prospective saints. Almost all the top geniuses of the lower district were killed by Qin Nan, resulting in their futures being destroyed. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon and the Imperial Exterminator, who had not appeared for 100 years, killed 6 peak leaders and severely injured sacred leader Feiyang. Gasp! How ferocious is this Qin Nan, to have the guts to charge into the Feiyang sacred area on his own. Terrifying, but Xiao Zhonghuang is currently cultivating in seclusion. Otherwise, the outcome would be uncertain. What do you know? Do you know who showed up at the last moment? The sect leader of one of the 4 great factions of the eastern continent was here, but Qin Nan crippled over 10 prospective saints in front of the sect leader and continued to challenge sacred leader Feiyang. My God, how daring is that? He's definitely a madman. I'm afraid even the Imperial Exterminator is no match for him. The cultivators of the lower district were astounded. At that instant, the name Madman Qin Nan was made known to the entire lower district. Although the cultivators assumed that Qin Nan would not stand a chance against Xiao Zhonghuang at the Ocean of Death in 6 months' time, and that Qin Nan would suffer a great blow after the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was killed, they were utterly respectful toward him. Apart from Qin Nan, who among the cultivators of the lower district would be so crazy? Not a single person. In a palace somewhere in the Qinglong sacred area, the Longhu ancestor beast, Sima Kong and Xiao Qingxue stared with their eyes open wide. They could not believe that the man who was currently staring at Princess Miao Miao with a calm smile on his face had crippled every genius of the Feiyang sacred area apart from Xiao Zhonghuang. They could not believe that Tang Qingshan and the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, 2 powerful existences, would accompany Qin Nan to go crazy. 3 lunatics. The same thought crossed their minds at the same time. Qin Nan sat beside the white jade bed. While he was busy fighting the battle, Princess Miao Miao had recovered significantly. Her attractive face was no longer pale, and her aura was calm. However, at that moment, Princess Miao Miao wore an icy expression, causing the others to feel extremely cold. Qin Nan, do you really think you're so powerful? Challenging the entire sacred area on your own? Do you really think you're a hero? Princess Miao Miao uttered a series of curses, but she clenched her teeth after realizing that Qin Nan had no sense of shame. She then glanced at Tang Qingshan and the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and snapped, "You 2 are old men who have lived for a few hundred years. You wouldn't understand that Qin Nan is being immature, right? What's the point of going crazy with him?" The corners of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and Tang Qingshan's mouths twitched slightly. This was probably the first time in a few hundred years that they had been reprimanded by a young girl. Princess Miao Miao did not care about their strength or cultivation at all. She reprimanded them for a full 2 hours. Ahem, Qin Nan, there are only 6 months left until the competition at the Sea of Death. You must remember to cultivate well during these 6 months. They have suffered heavy losses this time, so they will definitely have a backup plan. Tang Qingshan instructed Qin Nan, then quickly left with the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. They did not want to stay here any longer. Then I'll go cultivate. Qin Nan looked at Princess Miao Miao and smiled faintly. Princess Miao Miao wore an icy expression, not bothering to look at him. Qin Nan let out a smile and gave the Longhu ancestor beast and Sima Kong a few words, before leaving the place. He had to improve his strength as soon as possible. Since he did not manage to cripple Xiao Zhonghuang this time, he would definitely cripple him next time. Princess, the Longhu ancestor beast spoke in a cautious tone. Leave me alone, I need some time alone. Princess Miao Miao said in a cold tone. The Longhu ancestor beast, Sima Kong, and Xiao Qingxue exchanged glances with one another helplessly. They did not think that Qin Nan had done anything wrong, but since Princess Miao Miao was enraged, they could not afford to lose their temper. After everyone had left, the spacious room fell silent. Princess Miao Miao lay on the jade bed and stared at the ceiling, as if she was recalling the events that had taken place in the past, causing her to remain in a daze for a moment. When she collected her thoughts, she could feel her nose tingling, as her eyes were filled with tears. Although she was on the verge of tears, she burst out laughing instead. Chapter 453. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 455. The Opening of the Ocean of Death. Feiyang City. That was fast. Since the previous battle, the entire Feiyang City had been immersed in an oppressive atmosphere. When Progenitor Wendao arrived in person, the people of Feiyang City finally let out sighs of relief. Meanwhile, in the City Lord's Hall of Feiyang City, Progenitor Wendao sat at the leading position and glanced at the crowd, before he calmly said, Qin Nan's strength is extraordinary, which has exceeded our expectations. Now that the geniuses have all been crippled by him, from today onward, I'll suppress your cultivations to the peak martial dominator realm, to fool the ocean of death. Do you have any objections? The eyes of sacred leader Feiyang and the peak leaders flickered as they swiftly shook their heads. Martial Highness realm experts were not allowed to enter the ocean of death, as they would die without a doubt. Even if they were to suppress their cultivations, they would still be detected by the ocean of death and be killed instantly. At that instant, the darkness in their hearts completely vanished. Qin Nan's strength was too laudifying. Furthermore, his cultivation would continue to improve in the next 6 months. When that happened, Xiao Zhonghuang would have no chance of defeating him on his own. Now that they were going to participate in the battle, they could easily suppress Qin Nan with their understanding of martial arts and their years of battle experience. As long as their martial skills were superior to Qin Nan's, Xiao Zhonghuang would have no problem defeating Qin Nan in terms of martial skill talent when they reached the top of the Reaper's platform. Xiao Zhonghuang might not be able to defeat Qin Nan, but he had a first-grade D-ranked martial spirit. Progenitor Wendao glanced at the crowd with a hint of disdain. Love go little Saith Ku, if it weren't for the rules of the Ocean of Death, he would have brought people from the upper district here instead of relying on this bunch of trash. Besides, when the Ocean of Death is activated, the other 3 factions will send people here to spectate the battle. Tell the entire Feiyang sacred area to keep a low profile. Progenitor Wendao said. As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. Would the other 3 major powers send people over? Following this, they came to a realization. For some reason, the other 3 factions of the eastern continent were not allowed to interfere in the affairs of the lower district, but they had to keep an eye on the Tao-seeking mountain. After the trip to the Sea of Death, I will refine the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. At that time, a cold glint flashed in Progenitor Wendao's eyes. Qinglong Sacred Ground. Qin Nan sat cross-legged. Around him was a huge dragon vein. This dragon vein was different from the dragon vein of the Xianling clan. It was thousands of miles long, and its entire body was green. It had spiritual intelligence, and its aura was terrifying. It had actually reached the level of a venerable. Qin Nan was in the dragon vein, absorbing the spirit qi of the azure dragon vein. He continued to cultivate and raise his cultivation base. As for the Longhu Dominator beast, Sima Kong and Princess Miao Miao, they too entered the Qinglong sacred area to cultivate in seclusion. Time gradually passed. Days were gone. The uproar in the lower district gradually calmed down. Countless cultivators were looking forward to the opening of the Sea of Death, as they could not wait to witness the duel between Qin Nan and the top genius of the lower district, Xiao Zhonghuang. 5 months were gone in the blink of an eye. There were less than 10 days left until the opening of the Sea of Death. The cultivators of various countries in the lower district could not wait any longer and departed for the Sea of Death. As a result, the place was bustling with noise even before the Sea of Death was opened. On this particular day, in the Qinglong sacred area, bang, 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 a series of explosions took place inside Qin Nan's body. The nascent soul in his body shuddered violently and emitted a golden glow, which transformed into the 33rd golden dragon line. His aura became incredibly terrifying at that instant. What's going on? I've refined the 33rd golden dragon line with the help of the azure dragon vein, but I still can't trigger the tribulation. My current strength is equivalent to the peak martial dominator realm. Qin Nan opened his eyes and frowned. There was no sign of joy on his face. In the past 6 months, it was true that his strength had improved significantly, but he was still unable to trigger the tribulation. This caused him to feel uneasy in his heart. Did that mean that he could no longer trigger the tribulation, and could only focus on improving his nascent soul? I don't believe it. Do you really think your nascent soul is comparable to the martial highness realm? Qin Nan clenched his teeth and unleashed his determination, as he continued to cultivate. At that instant, a cry of agony could be heard. Qin Nan, you asshole, stop it at once. Stop cultivating, piss off at once. The one uttering the roar was none other than the azure dragon vein. The azure dragon vein was no longer as imperious as before. Its enormous body had shrunk to half its original size, while the glow emitting from its body had dimmed significantly. The azure dragon vein was so depressed that it felt like dying. When Tang Qingshan had asked Qin Nan to cultivate here, Qin Nan had apologized to it, telling it that cultivating here would harm it. However, it did not care about it at all. How much qi could a mere peak martial emperor realm cultivator absorb in 6 months' time? Later on, it realized that it had made a huge mistake. This Qin Nan was a monster, a maniac. Without using his martial spirit, he was able to absorb half of its cultivation. Senior, Qin Nan said while sweating, there are only 10 days left. I'll leave after cultivating for 10 days, okay? Are you being serious? The azure dragon vein wore a doubtful look, but it let out a sigh of relief after seeing Qin Nan nodding his head in a serious manner. It's fine if there are only 10 days left, go ahead and cultivate. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Nan's expression changed into a ferocious one. 5 golden rays were emitted from his back, as the terrifying figure of the divine battle spirit rose from the ground. At that instant, the qi of the heavens and earth transformed into stars that were sucked toward the divine battle spirit. It was as if a terrifying battle was taking place. This is... The azure dragon vein's expression changed tremendously. Are you kidding me? A 5th grade D-ranked martial spirit? Following this, it was dumbfounded. Didn't that mean half of its qi would be absorbed by this 5th grade D-ranked martial spirit in 10 days? Qin Nan did not unleash the divine battle spirit when he first started cultivating, as he was worried that he would accidentally absorb the azure dragon vein's qi. Now that there were only 10 days left, the azure dragon vein should be able to resist his absorption rate. Time flew by day after day. On the 10th day, the huge azure dragon vein had shrunk to a size of only 200 kilometers, looking extremely dispirited. However, the azure dragon vein seemed to have comprehended something after seeing the divine battle spirit, causing it to close its eyes and attempt to have a breakthrough. 33 golden dragon lines seems to be the limit. I can't continue to improve. Qin Nan let out a sigh of relief. If his nascent soul continued to improve, it would be a disaster for him. Since his nascent soul could not improve any further, it was most likely that he had encountered a barrier. Once he continued to accumulate his qi, he would surely trigger the tribulation. However, Qin Nan had a feeling that the tribulation this time would be extremely terrifying. 6 months have passed. The ocean of death will be accessible today. Qin Nan's aura changed tremendously as his eyes sharpened with a boundless battle intent. Xiao Zhonghuang. Chapter 454. A genius remembers love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 456. The Four Great Factions. The lower district, the northernmost place. Cotton candy. That's fast. He saw an ocean, and the seawater was black. This black color was a suffocating color. It was so deep and boundless that it seemed to be able to devour one's soul. The black ocean was incredibly vast. From afar, it felt like it was connected to the sky, with no end in sight. The ocean was the first of the 10 great forbidden areas of the lower district, the Ocean of Death. There were many rumors about the Ocean of Death. Among them, the most convincing one was that a few thousand years ago, an existence called the Death Emperor was hunted down by his enemies. In the end, he died here and his body turned into an ocean. Bang! All of a sudden, a shocking explosion took place on the calm ocean. An ancient door over 300 zhang long could be seen rising from the ocean, emitting an ancient, mysterious aura. The illusory ancient door seemed to be pulled by a mysterious force. It slowly opened to the sides, emitting a creaking sound. This shocking turn of events caused the cultivators who had been waiting in the small town 5 kilometers away to be completely shaken. Look, the door of death has appeared. In an hour's time, the door of death will be fully opened, and we will be able to enter it. Tisk tsk, I'm not expecting to find anything in the ocean of death. I'm only interested in seeing when the Feiyang sacred area and the Qinglong sacred area will be here. Love Go Xiao Sei Ku. The ocean of death was considered the first of the 10 great forbidden areas, which contained countless secrets and fortunate encounters. Once they were discovered, they would be able to soar into the sky. However, many cultivators had no intention of entering it, as the ocean of death was extremely dangerous. At least 8 out of 10 people would die in it. They were only here today to witness the duel between Qin Nan and Xiao Zhonghuang. Buzz. At that instant, the sky above began to tremble slightly. Countless rays of light began to intertwine rapidly in the sky, slowly forming a huge formation over 50 zhang long. At the center of the formation, figures began to appear one after another. In just the blink of an eye, there were over 10,000 figures. These figures were none other than the disciples, peak leaders, and sacred leader Feiyang of the Feiyang sacred area. Boom! The center of the formation suddenly shattered. From the shattered void, a throne shining with purple gold light rushed out and floated in midair. Hundreds of rays of light shone down from the 4 sides of the throne. The power was terrifying. On the throne sat Progenitor Wendao. However, 2 figures were standing beside Progenitor Wendao. One of them was the pale-faced Jiang Bailan, who had turned into a cripple, while the other was Xiao Zhonghuang, who had gone into seclusion for half a year. Xiao Zhonghuang had received full support from the Feiyang sacred area, allowing his strength to improve rapidly. His cultivation had reached the 7th layer martial dominator realm, and his aura was like a black hole. He held Jiang Bailan in his left arm and glanced down at the cultivators below him with a prideful expression, as if he were looking at ants. Look, that's Xiao Zhonghuang. Such a terrifying suppression. Could it be that his cultivation has reached the Martial Highness realm? Impossible, there's no way he's going to rank up to the Martial Highness realm. Is that progenitor Wendao from the Eastern continent sitting on the purple gold throne? It must be him. Didn't you see that sacred leader Feiyang is only standing below him? The thousands of cultivators exclaimed upon seeing this. It was the crowd's first time seeing progenitor Wendao and Xiao Zhonghuang, and they were completely stunned by their auras. Set up the tents, progenitor Wendao calmly said. The tens of thousands of disciples floating in the sky immediately landed on the ground. They took out their magical treasures and transformed them into small palaces on the ground. In just a few breaths' time, a small town appeared at the edge of the ocean of death. It was bustling with noise and excitement. The rogue cultivators nearby were astounded upon seeing this. I'm Miao Yusin, an inner disciple of the Wanxiang Pavilion. Greetings, progenitor Wendao. At that moment, a pleasant voice could be heard as a woman slowly approached from the distance. Each step she took would cause a seven-colored glow to appear under her feet, setting off her figure and making her look extremely dazzling. Shock surged in the eyes of the countless people in the area. Only the peak leaders of the Feiyang sacred area and a few martial dominator realm experts were astounded. There were 4 great factions in the eastern continent of the lower district, which were the Tao-seeking mountain, the Wanxiang Pavilion, the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, and the trading alliance. This Miao Yusin was an inner disciple of the Wanxiang Pavilion, a sign of how extraordinary she was. Progenitor Wendao slightly raised his head as a response. Miao Yusin glanced at Xiao Zhonghuang beside progenitor Wendao and said in a pleasant voice, "You must be the top genius of the lower district, Mr. Xiao? If you don't mind, I would like to cooperate with you on something." Xiao Zhonghuang's eyes flickered with joy. This woman had an extraordinary aura. Just the way she walked over from afar was enough to make his heart beat faster. Moreover, this woman was an inner disciple of Wanxiang Tower. In comparison, Jiang Bailan, who had turned into a cripple, was nothing compared to her. Xiao Zhonghuang maintained his distance from Jiang Bailan and cupped his fists. "Senior Sister Yusin, feel free to speak your mind. If I'm able to help, I'll do my best to help." "Thank you, Mr. Xiao." Miao Yusin let out a pleasant laugh and said, "Our Wanxiang Pavilion is interested in something inside the Death God's palace." The crowd immediately came to a realization after hearing the words. Once the Ocean of Death was activated, the door of the God of Death would be opened. Those who entered the door of the God of Death would be teleported to the deepest part of the Ocean of Death, the Death God's palace. According to the rumors, the Death God's palace contained countless rare treasures, each of which was extremely valuable. However, only the real peerless geniuses were able to acquire them. Although Miao Yusin was an inner disciple of the Wanxiang Pavilion, as she was from the upper district, she was rejected by the Ocean of Death. Thus she could only ask Xiao Zhonghuang, who was from the lower district, to enter the Death God's palace and retrieve the treasures they were looking for. The disciples of the Feiyang sacred area glanced at Xiao Zhonghuang with a great sense of respect. They clearly knew that once the Ocean of Death was activated, Xiao Zhonghuang's identity would undergo a tremendous change. "Junior brother Xiao, the Trading Alliance has something we need your help to retrieve too." At that instant a yell could be heard. The crowd could only see a white-robed young man carrying a long spear on his back walking toward them with a cold expression. A murderous aura was emitted from his body, causing the crowd to shiver. As the white-robed young man arrived, he immediately brought his fists together facing progenitor Wendao and said, "I'm Lu Jian, a disciple of the Trading Alliance." "Greetings, progenitor Wendao." Progenitor Wendao's eyes flickered slightly as he nodded his head without saying anything. Xiao Zhonghuang frowned slightly. He did not expect Lu Jian of the Trading Alliance to interfere all of a sudden, which put him in a difficult position. Although he was on Miao Yusin's side, This Lu Jian was obviously a genius of the trading alliance, thus he could not afford to offend him. Haha, Lu Jian, Miao Yusin, what a surprise to see you two here. Suddenly, a burst of laughter could be heard, as a young man wearing a golden robe with countless fiery dragons carved on it flew toward them. Chapter 455. Genius remembers love in a second divided by little? Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 457. An Imperious Entrance. I'm the 9th Prince of the Sky-Scorching Ancient Kingdom, Song Yu. Greetings, Progenitor Wendao. Song Yu brought his fists together in a respectful manner. Access. The expressions of everyone present changed slightly. Their eyes contained a trace of reverence as they looked at Song Yu. Miao Yusin and Lu Jian represented the Wanxiang Pavilion and the Trading Alliance respectively. They were only the geniuses of their respective factions. In comparison to them, Song Yu's identity was much more honorable. The sky-scorching ancient kingdom had the largest population and the largest territory in the eastern continent of the lower district. The royal family was the most respected in the kingdom, and the emperor of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom was the most authoritative figure in the entire kingdom. His status was on par with Progenitor Wendao. Song Yu, send my regards to your father after the trial at the Ocean of Death. Progenitor Wendao said. Everyone's expression changed slightly. Sure. Song Yu nodded his head, before he glanced at Xiao Zhonghuang and burst out laughing. Brother Xiao, we'll have plenty of time to catch up once you arrive at the upper district. Now that the Ocean of Death is about to be activated, let's not waste any time. I represent the sky-scorching ancient kingdom to ask you to retrieve the treasure from the Death God's palace. If Brother Xiao is able to do so, the sky-scorching ancient kingdom will surely reward you greatly. Love go little Sei Ku. As Song Yu spoke, he flicked his finger, causing a screen of light to appear. On the screen of light was a strangely shaped spirit medicine that resembled a wooden umbrella. Junior Brother Xiao, we're after this herb too. We hope Junior Brother Xiao can help us, as the trading alliance will not mistreat you. Lu Jian blurted out in a firm tone, as if he was clashing with a sword. Mr. Xiao, I hope you can help Yusin too. If you're able to retrieve the herb and give it to the Wanxiang Pavilion, feel free to tell me what you need. Miao Yusin spoke in a calm tone. At that instant, the crowd was stunned. Song Yu, Miao Yusin, and Lu Jian were all geniuses of the upper district, and they were now representing the three factions to ask for Xiao Zhonghuang's help. What kind of existence was this stock of spirit medicine? Sacred Leader Fei Yang and the peak leaders glanced at Progenitor Wendao with a hint of confusion. Progenitor Wendao shook his head. It went without saying that he knew what this stock of mystical herb was, and how valuable it was. However, he was not willing to be a part of it, as his scheme against Sacred Leader Qinglong had attracted the attention of the three great factions. If he did not give the three great factions some benefits, he would most likely be targeted by the three great factions. After all, the three major forces wouldn't just watch as he grew stronger. Xiao Zhonghuang's expression stiffened slightly. He had not expected that the three great powers would all want the same thing. How was he supposed to choose? No matter who he chose, he would most likely offend the other two major powers. Although he was considered the top genius of the lower district, and was favored by the Feiyang Sacred Area and Progenitor Wendao, he clearly knew that once the trial at the Ocean of Death came to an end and he entered the upper district, his status would still be inferior compared to these three. A first-grade D-ranked martial spirit was considered stable in the lower district, but in the upper district's eastern continent, he would only be considered an above-average genius. However, at that instant, a rare occurrence took place. Roar. A shocking roar could be heard all of a sudden, as a terrifying dragon might surged forward ferociously. The crowd was astounded as they turned their heads toward the source of the roar. They could only see a ferocious-looking giant dragon over 100 zhang long flying toward them from the distance. The appearance of the giant dragon was extremely strange, as it had the 4 limbs of a tiger, while its tail had turned into a tiger's tail, giving it a strange appearance. Even so, the visual impact of that dragon-headed, tiger-bodied demonic beast was extraordinarily huge. Dragon-tiger bloodline? The eyes of the 9th prince Song Yu, Lu Jian, and Miao Yusen glistened. Following this, the crowd soon saw a human figure standing on top of the dragon's head. The figure was wearing a black robe, with 7 ancient sabers on his back. His hair danced wildly in the wind as he crossed his arms in front of his chest. Even when facing progenitor Wendao, the entire Feiyang sacred area, and the geniuses of the 3 great factions, his expression remained the same as before, as if he was emitting an imperious aura. This black-robed young man was none other than Qin Nan. Behind Qin Nan stood Sima Kong, Princess Miao Miao, Xiao Qingxue, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, Tang Qinshan, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, Peak Leader Luo, and behind the 4 peak leaders stood the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. However, these 9 people served as a great shock to the crowd. Madman Qin Nan. Look, it's the madman Qin Nan. Gasp, such a terrifying suppression. His aura is even more terrifying than Xiao Zhonghuang's. Such a powerful aura, being able to remain calm despite facing the crowd. If the geniuses of the 3 great factions had brought Qin Nan here, the crowd would be shocked. Therefore, Qin Nan's arrival was equivalent to a terrifying storm taking place among the crowd. The people of the Feiyang sacred area, including the sacred leader and the disciples, were startled. Some of these people's eyes were filled with fear, while others were filled with murderous intent. Even progenitor Wendao's eyes widened slightly when he saw Qin Nan, as a boundless icy aura burst out from his body like an erupting volcano. However, when he saw the Sacred Lord Blue Dragon emitting a deathly aura from the corner of his eyes, he withheld his urge and wore a cold grin. When Song Yu, Lu Jian and Miao Yusen saw this scene, a trace of astonishment flashed through their eyes. It went without saying that they were familiar with Qin Nan's appearance, but they had never thought that Qin Nan's arrival would result in such a terrifying aura, causing the crowd to tremble. Xiao Zhonghuang's expression changed slightly when he saw this scene, and it was extremely unsightly. Before Qin Nan's arrival, he was the focus of the crowd as he was highly sought after by the 3 great factions. However, Qin Nan's arrival had completely stolen his limelight. Qin Nan. Xiao Zhonghuang's expression turned cold all of a sudden as he snapped. Half a year ago, what you did to the Feiyang sacred area, I'll crush you on the Reaper's platform at the Death God's palace. I'll make you pay for the humiliation you brought to the Feiyang sacred area. The roar caused the disciples of the Feiyang sacred area to be startled. Half a year ago, they had been beaten by Qin Nan single-handedly. Now that Xiao Zhonghuang had returned from his seclusion, how could a mere Qin Nan continue to be scornful? Whoosh! The crowd instinctively glanced toward Qin Nan. Qin Nan turned his head around after hearing the words and drew out the ancient saber on his back with a clank. Following this, his aura skyrocketed, as if he were an ancient god of slaughter with a tremendous murderous intent. Enough with the nonsense. If you have the guts, come and have a duel of life and death with me. I'll give you a handicap of 100 moves. Chapter 456. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 458. The opening of the door. Everyone's expression changed drastically. 79 moves? How disdainful was that? Xiao Zhonghuang was a peerless genius. How could Qin Nan win if he were to give him a handicap of 100 moves? At that instant, the crowd immediately glanced at Xiao Zhonghuang. They were eager to know if Xiao Zhonghuang dared to accept the challenge. Xiao Zhonghuang's expression stiffened. He did not expect Qin Nan to be so disdainful, causing the flames of anger in his heart to rise uncontrollably. However, as he was about to speak, he saw Qin Nan's terrifying aura, and recalled how Qin Nan had broken into the sacred area and killed 18 prospective saints in a row. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured onto the flames of anger in his heart. If Qin Nan dared to speak, it meant that he was confident enough to do so. This was a duel of life and death. If he failed to defeat Qin Nan in 100 moves, wouldn't that mean he would be killed by Qin Nan? Under the crowd's gaze, Xiao Zhonghuang could feel his face burning as he clenched his teeth and said, "Qin Nan, the ocean of death has just been activated. Our duel will take place at the Reaper's platform, not here. Once we arrive at the Reaper's platform, I'll let you know the difference between our talents." After hearing this, the crowd of disciples wore disdainful looks on their faces. This Xiao Zhonghuang was obviously scared, yet he still dared to say such a righteous reason. Once they arrived at the Reaper's platform, Xiao Zhonghuang would possess a first-grade D-ranked martial spirit, while Qin Nan would only possess a 10th-grade Xian-ranked martial spirit. Wasn't it obvious that Qin Nan would lose? Qin Nan calmly withdrew his saber and said, "Either the Reaper's platform or the duel, you will still lose in the end." After saying this, he didn't even look at Xiao Zhonghuang. Although Qin Nan had a strong urge to kill Xiao Zhonghuang, it was impossible for him to do so with progenitor Wendao guarding the Feiyang sacred area. Therefore, his only option was to defeat Xiao Zhonghuang at the Reaper's platform and acquire the godly object. Full text reading, "I'll lose?" A cold light flashed in Xiao Zhonghuang's eyes. This Qin Nan was too arrogant. Although he did not dare to duel Qin Nan, he possessed a first-grade D-ranked martial spirit and an outstanding martial skill talent. How could a mere 10th-grade Xian-ranked Qin Nan compete with him? Not to mention that progenitor Wendao had an even stronger trump card to lend him a hand. Xiao Zhonghuang was about to mock them when he saw Miao Yusin and her crew, causing him to come up with a plan. He turned around and said to the trio, "You three, I won't reject your request. However, there's only one stalk of mystical herb. How about this? I'll give the herb to whoever is able to make Qin Nan drop to his knees. How does that sound?" The crowd was stunned before they came to a realization. This Xiao Zhonghuang was so vicious, using the other 3 factions to deal with Qin Nan. Song Yu, Lu Jian, and Miao Yusin were aware of Xiao Zhonghuang's intention, but they did not think it was a bad idea. As long as they could acquire the herb, they would not hesitate to kill Qin Nan, let alone make Qin Nan drop to his knees. "Qin Nan." Song Yu was the first to step forward while placing his hands behind himself. His eyes were extremely cold as he said, "The herb is something our sky-scorching ancient kingdom needs. If you drop to your knees and kowtow to Xiao Zhonghuang now, our sky-scorching ancient kingdom will reward you handsomely. Friend Qin Nan, drop to your knees and kowtow to Xiao Zhonghuang. Our Wanxiang pavilion will surely reward you handsomely. Furthermore, if friend Qin Nan does not drop to his knees, he will be considered an enemy of our Wanxiang pavilion." Miao Yusin stepped forward and spoke in a soft tone. Compared to the 2 of them, the spear-wielding Lu Jian was more direct. He directly took out his spear. "Qin Nan, either drop to your knees before Xiao Zhonghuang, or I'll kill you in a duel of life and death." This Lu Jian was the custodian of the trading alliance, whose strength was on par with Miao Yusin and the other inner disciples. His cultivation had reached the peak martial dominator realm. As he uttered the roar, a series of explosions took place. The disciples of the Feiyang sacred area could not help but laugh hollowly upon seeing this. Xiao Zhonghuang wore a mocking expression on his face. As for the crowd of cultivators, they shook their heads upon seeing this. Qin Nan had already offended progenitor Wendao, and now the other 3 factions were picking on him too. What was Qin Nan supposed to do? If he did not drop to his knees, he would be offending the 4 great factions of the eastern continent of the Upper District. Qin Nan's expression turned cold. He had no conflict with these three factions, but he did not expect them to pick on him just because of a single sentence from Xiao Zhonghuang. Did they really think he was a pushover? If you want to fight, bring it on. I even dared to offend progenitor Wendao, let alone you three inner disciples. Qin Nan showed no mercy as he once again drew out his saber with a murderous aura. Song Yu, Miao Yusin, and Lu Jian were stunned. This Qin Nan was so daring. Only progenitor Wendao, who was sitting on the purple golden throne, could not help but twitch his lips after hearing the words. Watch out for my spear. Song Yu and Miao Yusin were intimidated by the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and his crew, but Lu Jian was not as intimidated. He glared at Qin Nan and fired his spear like a dragon, firing countless spear shadows in an attempt to kill Qin Nan. His first attack was a terrifying killing blow, resulting in a terrifying power. The grin on Xiao Zhonghuang's face grew thicker after seeing this. It did not matter if Lu Jian was able to kill Qin Nan, as Qin Nan had offended the other three factions this time. How bold! Qin Nan's eyes emitted a terrifying thunderous roar. With a kick, his figure weaved through the spear shadows like a bolt of lightning, dodging all of them. The sight caused Lu Jian, Miao Yusin, and Song Yu's expressions to change slightly. Such a terrifying movement technique. Piss off! In the blink of an eye, Qin Nan arrived before Lu Jian and threw a vermilion bird fist at him. Heavenly shield. Lu Jian could feel his hair standing on end. He had not expected Qin Nan's strength to be this terrifying, which was on par with his attack. He immediately executed an Emperor weapon shield. Bang! The shield was instantly shattered into pieces, while the remaining force of the punch landed on Lu Jian's figure, knocking him backward. Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. That was a genius from the upper district. Qin Nan had knocked him back with a single punch? Xiao Zhonghuang, in particular, was drenched in cold sweat. With such strength, even if Qin Nan were to give him 100 moves, he would not stand a chance against Qin Nan. What are you two waiting for? Attack together! Lu Jian turned his head around and snapped. Song Yu and Miao Yusin hesitated for a moment, before they stepped forward and prepared to attack. It was unreasonable for three geniuses from the upper district to fight against a genius. However, their goal was to make Qin Nan drop to his knees before Xiao Zhonghuang, not to compete with each other. Bang! At that instant, a shocking explosion could be heard coming from the ocean of death a distance away. The enormous ocean of death, standing on the surface of the sea, had been completely opened. Strong gusts of wind were blowing from the door, as if a peerless demon had opened its bloody mouth. Chapter 457. Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Small? Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 459. A Huge Formation. Lu Jian, Song Yu and Miao Yusin withdrew their attacks. Now that the door of death had been opened, they could not afford to challenge Qin Nan anymore. After all, Qin Nan and Xiao Zhonghuang were going to have a duel at the Death God's palace. If they were to interfere now, it was highly possible that the sacred Lord Blue Dragon would ignore them and attack them directly. Advertisement. 79XS Junior Brother Xiao, let's kill Qin Nan after the Ocean of Death comes to an end. Lu Jian, Song Yu and Miao Yusin immediately spoke. Xiao Zhonghuang's eyes flickered as he nodded his head. Once the Ocean of Death came to an end and he had acquired the godly object, progenitor Wendao would use it to deal with the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. The battle between the Feiyang Sacred Area and the Qinglong Sacred Area would then take place once again. The experts above the Martial Highness realm would be involved in the battle, thus they would not have the time to focus on dealing with Qin Nan. In order to kill Qin Nan, they would have to rely on the Martial Dominator realm experts. Meanwhile, the crowd of rogue cultivators did not rush into the door of death as usual. They turned their heads around and glanced at Qin Nan and Xiao Zhonghuang. The reason being that the Ocean of Death was their stage this time. Let's go. Xiao Zhonghuang glanced at Qin Nan with a disdainful look. With a kick, his figure sprang into the door of death like a ray of light. At that instant, Yang Fengzhu and the rest, the 18 peak leaders, rose from their seats too. What are they doing? What are these peak leaders planning to do? Are they going to start a battle now? That shouldn't be the case. Why would they start a battle now? The eyes of the rogue cultivators flickered. Qin Nan and the others glanced toward the 18 peak leaders too. Blood devour! Yang Fengzhu and the rest of the cultivators uttered a roar as blood snakes burst out from their bodies, emitting a terrifying hissing sound. Following this, the blood snakes encapsulated their figures, turning them into bloody figures. Their auras of the Martial Highness realm dropped to the peak of the Martial Dominator realm. All the cultivators present were visibly moved. He had suppressed his aura from that of a venerable to that of a peak martial emperor. Did that mean the 18 martial highnesses were going to enter the ocean of death? Not good. The expressions on the faces of the Duanmu Mountain Lord and the others changed slightly, as they did not expect the Feiyang sacred area to have prepared such a scheme. These are 18 peak leaders. Not only do they possess powerful martial spirits, their battle strength is terrifying too. They are not comparable to ordinary peak martial dominators. Only the sacred Lord Blue Dragon remained calm and composed, as if he had not noticed their sinister plot. Haha, Qin Nan, I'll be waiting for you inside. Yang Fengzhu let out a hideous grin toward Qin Nan. His hatred toward Qin Nan was bone deep, and he even dreamed of crushing his bones into ashes. However, Qin Nan was protected by the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, the Imperial Exterminator, and the others, thus he could not do anything to him. Although his cultivation was suppressed after entering the Ocean of Death, he would have no problem crushing Qin Nan. At that instant, the figures of the 18 peak leaders flew toward the door of death. Let's go! At that instant, a peak martial dominator realm expert of the Feiyang sacred area yelled. Following this, a few thousand martial dominator realm cultivators sprang into the sky and glanced coldly at Qin Nan, before dashing into the door of death like a dragon. The rogue cultivators were left speechless by the sight before them. What a grand plan! 18 peak leaders to protect him, and thousands of disciples to assist him. Such a huge formation had never appeared before when the door of death had opened in the past. The rogue cultivators immediately collected their thoughts. With such a formation, not only would Qin Nan not be able to slay Xiao Zhonghuang on the Reaper's platform, it was highly possible that Qin Nan would be eliminated by the people of the Feiyang sacred area before the battle took place. Qin Nan, I would like to see what kind of waves you're going to stir this time. On the purple golden throne, Progenitor Wendao spoke for the first time with a cold expression. His voice felt like a clap of thunder, causing the blood of the cultivators to boil vigorously. Is that so? Qin Nan wore an expressionless face. He had not expected 18 peak leaders to show up, but he was not intimidated no matter how many of them there were, or how powerful they were. Qin Nan, the Ocean of Death is extremely dangerous this time. You should be careful. The Qinglong sacred area won't be able to provide you with any help. You're on your own now. Besides, you should be careful of the Death's attendant. He is on Progenitor Wendao's side. If you manage to defeat Xiao Zhonghuang at the Reaper's platform, you must acquire the first treasure and the reincarnation badge. These two treasures. At that instant, Tang Qingshan glanced at Qin Nan and said in a serious tone, "Be careful of the Death's attendant? The first treasure and the reincarnation badge?" Qin Nan nodded his head and took a deep breath, before bringing his fists together toward Tang Qingshan and the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Let's go. Qin Nan stomped his foot and sprang into the sky at lightning speed. Ha ha ha, the Ocean of Death. Here I come. The Longhu ancestor beast uttered a roar as he carried Princess Miao Miao and Sima Kong toward the door of death. Compared to the huge formation of the Feiyang sacred area, their group of 4 was extremely weak. Let's go! Let's head inside at once. I must witness the battle with my own eyes. Many of the cultivators at the scene became restless as their figures dashed toward the door of death. In the blink of an eye, the number of people on the shore had decreased by half. Despite that, the place was now filled with over 10,000 people, most of whom were here to witness the battle between the geniuses. Qin Nan, Tang Qingshan and the Duanmu Mountain Lord clenched their fists tightly. The Qinglong sacred area had placed all their hopes on Qin Nan, both the sacred Lord Blue Dragon and their junior sister. Although they clearly knew that Qin Nan only possessed a 10th grade Xian-ranked martial spirit, thus his martial skill talent was not comparable to Xiao Zhonghuang's, not to mention that Xiao Zhonghuang had peak leader X sealing his cultivation to protect him, and the help of many disciples. However, they had no choice but to believe in Qin Nan, and believe that he would be able to create a miracle. Cough cough. At that instant, a series of violent coughs could be heard all of a sudden, which turned out to be the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon's coughs became even stronger, as he spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. Each mouthful of blood that landed on the ground contained a strong corrosive force, causing the ground to rapidly turn black and become filled with a deathly aura. The crowd could feel their hearts shuddering seeing this. The eyes of Song Yu, Miao Yusen, and Lu Jian flickered slightly. Judging from his reaction, it was obvious that sacred leader Qinglong did not have much time left. Sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Progenitor Wendao sat on the purple-golden throne and wore a cold grin upon seeing this. This time, there was no way the sacred Lord Blue Dragon could escape from his grasp. As for that Ant Qin Nan, did he really think he could be the savior of the Qinglong sacred area? Chapter 458. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 460 Bloodshed Tomb, Master Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, and the others were startled seeing this. Full text -79xs-. It's fine. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon waved his hand and calmly said, according to my estimation, it would take them at least half a day to reach the top of the Reaper's platform, right? It's rare for us 5 to gather here. Let's have a good chat. Tang Qingshan and the others were startled. Their eyes flickered with a complicated look, before they nodded their heads. The crowd let out sighs in their hearts seeing this. In their eyes, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was making arrangements for his death. Qin Nan, Princess Miao Miao, and the others entered the giant door of death. As soon as they entered the door, a blinding light was emitted, forcing them to close their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, they found themselves in another world. Qin Nan immediately scanned his surroundings. Under his feet was a dojo, which was blood-red in color and covered an area of 200 li. The dojo was surrounded by endless darkness. Even with Qin Nan's left eye of the divine god of battle, he could not see through the darkness. On top of that, the most eye-catching thing was that there were 2 paths on both sides of the dojo. The first path was white, while the second path was black. Both paths extended into the darkness, and no one knew where they led to. Humph! A cold harumph could be heard all of a sudden, who turned out to be Xiao Zhonghuang. Xiao Zhonghuang stood on the other side of the dojo, surrounded by 18 peak leaders and a few thousand martial dominator realm experts, like stars surrounding the moon, resulting in a magnificent sight. In comparison, the 4 cultivators on Qin Nan's side were extremely weak. There were over 10,000 rogue cultivators on the dojo. None of them uttered a word upon seeing this. Qin Nan was about to speak when a piercing sound could be heard all of a sudden. A middle-aged man appeared above the dojo. This middle-aged man's entire body was pitch black, and he emitted a dense aura of death. His eyes were incomparably scarlet, and wherever his gaze passed, it sent chills down one's spine. Martial saints were even stronger than martial saints. They were at least half-saints. However, that person's aura is a little unique. There isn't the slightest hint of life in his body. Qin Nan frowned as he scanned with his left eye of the divine god of battle. As you can see, there are two paths. The white path leads to the Reaper's platform. This black road contained countless fortuitous encounters, as well as incomparably terrifying dangers. If one entered it, there was only a slim chance of survival. Of course, there were also those who could obtain peerless inheritances and change their fates. I'll give you 1 incense stick's worth of time to make your choice. The middle-aged man swept his gaze across the crowd and said coldly, "Let's go. Enter the path of darkness. I'm here to defy the heavens and change my fate. I'll pass." The rogue cultivators at the scene were the first to burst into an uproar. Many among them decisively stepped onto the black path. At the same time, many of them shook their heads. They had only come to the ocean of death to witness the duel between Qin Nan and Xiao Zhonghuang. "Let's go." Xiao Zhonghuang glimpsed at Qin Nan and wore a hollow grin. He then led the group toward the path of darkness. "Wait!" A pleasant voice could be heard all of a sudden, which turned out to be Jiang Bailan. Since Qin Nan had crippled Jiang Bailan's cultivation, her attractive face had turned extremely pale. However, her eyes were extremely firm as she said, "Xiao Zhonghuang, you guys go ahead. I'm going to the path of darkness. Suit yourself." Xiao Zhonghuang calmly glanced at her. The path of darkness was extremely dangerous. A piece of trash like Jiang Bailan would surely die if she were to enter it. He did not care if she lived or died. The other peak leaders and martial dominator realm experts did not step forward to stop her. Their gazes were cold, without the friendly smile on their faces. Jiang Bailan held her breath, before she adjusted her thoughts and left Xiao Zhonghuang's group. She slowly walked toward the path of darkness. As she passed by Qin Nan's group, she came to a halt and glanced at Qin Nan, before she quickened her pace and left the place. "Let's go." Qin Nan was not too bothered by Jiang Bailan's current state. After crippling her cultivation, the hatred in his heart had completely dissipated. Qin Nan. However, at that instant, a pleasant voice could be heard all of a sudden. Qin Nan turned his head around and could feel his hair standing on end. He could only see a tall, attractive woman with fair skin walking toward him. Beside her were 2 men with identical appearances to Qin Nan. The woman was none other than his first senior brother, Zhao Feng. Her current appearance was the same as the Jade Rakshasa from the City of Black Hands. Zhao Feng was extremely excited after seeing Qin Nan. Previously, when the Qinglong sacred area experienced a great change, he was ordered to infiltrate the Feiyang sacred area in the nick of time. He then transformed into the Jade Rakshasa and left the group of the Feiyang sacred area. How beautiful! Qin Nan, who's this? Why don't you introduce her to me? The Longhu ancestor beast's eyes flickered after seeing the Jade Rakshasa, as he almost drooled. He had been trapped in the secluded place by the Duanmu mountain lord for a few months, but he had yet to see a single woman, thus he was extremely bored. Qin Nan, Princess Miao Miao, and Sima Kong wore strange expressions on their faces. "Who are you?" Zhao Feng wore a disgusted look when he saw the young man with 2 bumps on his forehead drooling while staring at him. "Hee, pretty girl, allow me to introduce myself. I'm the Longhu ancestor beast. Pft, I'm now the Longhu dominator beast. I have the bloodline of the heavenly dragon and thunderous tiger, which is extremely noble. I'm going to be the ruler of the world in the future. If you're willing to follow me, you will surely be rich in the future." The Longhu dominator beast continued to boast with a prideful expression. "Let's go." Qin Nan, Princess Miao Miao, and Sima Kong could not stand it any longer. They immediately headed toward the white path. Hey Qin Nan, wait for me. Zhao Feng immediately followed behind. K me, you've already taken Princess Miao Miao, and now you've taken this beauty away. Qin Nan, I'm not convinced. The Longhu Dominator beast wore a furious expression. He secretly made up his mind to get this beautiful woman. The white path was not long, only a few hundred meters long. In just a few breaths' time, Qin Nan and the others arrived at the end of the path. The eyes of Qin Nan and the others were filled with astonishment. The darkness in front of him suddenly disappeared and was replaced by a brand new world. In this world, the sky had turned blood red, and 3 green moons hung in the sky. The earth was scorched black, as if it had been burned by endless flames. It emitted a sense of death that made people's hair stand on end. In addition to that, 3 li away from them stood a few giant tombs. The tombs were over 30 zhang tall and a few hundred zhang long. The soil of the tombs was dyed red. The tombs were stacked together, forming a giant wall of tombs, which completely surrounded the ground that Qin Nan and the others were standing on. With a rough glance, there were at least over 10,000 tombs dyed red, like an ocean of tombs. Everyone, I'm the examiner of the Reaper's platform. You can call me the Death's Attendant. The middle-aged man appeared once again and scanned the crowd. His lips curled upward into an eerie grin as he said, "The place we're currently at is called the Bloodshed Tomb. There are a total of 87,000 graves here, and 80,000 of them are filled with murderous intent. Even a martial highness would be killed instantly if he were to enter them. Only the remaining 7,000 graves are not filled with murderous intent. On the contrary, they are filled with all kinds of treasures. Before entering the Reaper's platform, there are 2 trials in total. The first one is the Bloodshed Tomb. The whole test will last for 2 hours. In these 2 hours, each of you has to enter at least 10 blood graves. Whoever enters the highest number of correct blood graves will win the first place in the bloodshed grave. The first person will be rewarded with a Bodhi heart." As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone present changed. Chapter 459. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 461, The Display of the Godly Eyes. Among the 87,000 graves, only 7,000 of them were free of danger. In other words, only 1 out of every 12 graves would survive. Read the full article. Furthermore, the participants were required to enter at least 10 graves in the first round. The Heart of Bodhi? Princess Miao Miao's eyes flickered with astonishment. This Heart of Bodhi is extremely precious. After consuming it, it can permanently improve one's comprehension, martial skill talent, etc. Improve one's martial skill talent? Qin Nan sharply sensed that something was amiss. Everyone knew that the Reaper's platform was meant to test one's martial skill talent. If one were to come first and acquire the Heart of Bodhi and consume it, wouldn't that mean they would have a better result when comprehending their martial skill talent at the Reaper's platform? Senior Imperial Exterminator did tell me to be careful of this death servant, and now the Heart of Bodhi has appeared. Qin Nan glanced at the middle-aged man wearing an eerie smile in the air and frowned slightly. The first round begins now. The time limit is an hour. The Death's servant uttered a roar as he secretly glanced at Qin Nan, before glancing at Xiao Zhonghuang and nodding his head slightly. Qin Nan immediately noticed the detail, which further confirmed his speculation. "Ha ha ha, Qin Nan, I'll surely come first in the first round. You, on the other hand, should be careful not to die in the first round." Xiao Zhonghuang burst out laughing all of a sudden as his aura skyrocketed. His gaze toward Qin Nan was filled with disdain and disdain. Yang Fengzhu and the others behind him uttered hollow laughs too. Before entering the ocean of death, they had already learned that there were 230 graves that were free of danger through their investigation and exploration over the past 100 years. Read the full article. Xiao Zhonghuang entered the 230 graves without any danger. With this number, he would easily come first. Under the crowd's gaze, Xiao Zhonghuang soared into the sky and entered one of the graves without any hesitation. The hearts of the other cultivators sank upon seeing this. They were not stupid. They naturally understood that Xiao Zhonghuang must have learned a certain number of correct graves through some means. Be careful in this round. Motherf ***, could it be that I can't even pass the first stage? Then how are we going to watch their duel? The rogue cultivators from the various countries of the lower district complained. They had come here to witness the duel between the two geniuses, but the first round was so dangerous that they were stuck between a rock and a hard place. Let me try my left eye of the god of war. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with lightning as he scanned the blood graves, and immediately noticed something different. The blood grave that Xiao Zhonghuang had just entered contained an obscure and mysterious power. However, there were many other blood graves that did not contain that obscure and mysterious power. It seems like those with the mysterious power are the graves without danger, and those without danger are the graves with danger. Qin Nan immediately came to a conclusion after inspecting all 87,000 graves, causing his lips to curl upward. Xiao Zhonghuang, I'm afraid you won't be able to pass the first stage as you wish. Princess Miao Miao, listen carefully. The 500 graves to the east are all correct. Qin Nan swiftly transmitted his voice to Princess Miao Miao and the others. That being said, he did not forget about Zhao Feng, as he had saved his life once during the grand competition of the 16 mountains. Qin Nan, impressive. The Longhu Dominator beast's eyes flickered. Zhao Feng's gaze toward Qin Nan was filled with admiration too. Let's go, time is running short. Qin Nan shook his head and was about to enter the graves with a flicker. At that instant, he caught a glimpse of a familiar figure from the corner of his eye. However, before he could take a closer look, the figure had already disappeared. Who could it be? Qin Nan was slightly confused, but he did not overthink it and entered the graves. As soon as Qin Nan entered the first grave, his eyes flickered. There were 300 primary stones in the first grave. If a single grave has 300 primary stones, 500 of them. Qin Nan's heart immediately became fiery. Meanwhile, in the strange space, the death's attendant flicked his finger, causing a light screen to appear. On the light screen, there were a few hundred names that were rotating continuously. The person ranked first was none other than Xiao Zhonghuang. Behind his name was a blinding number, 98. Gasp 98. He has entered 98 correct graves in such a short time. F***K, he's cheating. Sigh, what's the point of cheating? The world isn't fair to begin with. Once Xiao Zhonghuang obtains the heart of Bodhi, his martial skill talent will be even more terrifying at the Reaper's platform. The rogue cultivators who did not dare to enter the graves let out sighs. As they sighed, they turned their gazes to the left. There was a hint of doubt in their eyes. The reason being that Yang Fengzhu and the rest of the peak leaders had yet to enter the graves. According to the Death Servant, if they did not enter more than 10 graves, they would not be able to proceed to the next stage. Why would they enter the graves instead of proceeding to the next stage? Peak leader Yang and the others ignored the gazes of the crowd as they glanced at the first-ranked Xiao Zhonghuang with a grin on his face. They subconsciously glanced at the death's attendant and nodded slightly at him. The death's servant glanced at them and nodded his head too. Following this, the eerie grin on his face was replaced with a hint of coldness. With the map, Xiao Zhonghuang will surely obtain the heart of Bodhi, which will further improve his martial skill talent. The death's servant took a deep breath as his eyes burned passionately. However, at that instant a rare occurrence took place. After the names on the screen, the numbers suddenly started to roll and climb rapidly. This sudden change was like a clap of thunder, causing the spirit of everyone present to tremble. What's going on? Princess Meow Meow is 56 now? My god, 58, no, 60. The Longhu Dominator Beast and the others are rising too. And Qin Nan is 100 now. The Death Servant, Yang Fengzhu, and the others were stunned as they raised their heads. After a period of over 60 breaths, the noisy crowd suddenly fell into a dead silence. They stared with their eyes open wide at the first name on the screen. How was this possible? Chapter 460. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by little? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 462. Qin Nan swiftly moved through the graves. Marshmallow accessed. Not every one of these blood graves contained origin stones. Some of them contained spirit herbs, cultivation methods, martial skills, and so on. All of them were valuable treasures. Qin Nan had looted over 400 graves in a row. He was thoroughly excited by the treasures. 3,000 primary stones and various elixirs. There's still time, let's continue looting, continue. Qin Nan's eyes burned passionately as his figure dashed forward like a ferocious tiger. However, little did Qin Nan know that his actions had brought a great shock to the outside world. The eyes of the Death Servant, Yang Fengzhu, and the rogue cultivators who had yet to enter the graves were filled with astonishment. The reason being that the one ranked first was no longer Xiao Zhonghuang, but Qin Nan. Furthermore, the number of graves behind his name was still increasing rapidly. 500. F***K me, 600 now. That's 600 now. Damn it, all 600 of them are correct. How did Qin Nan do it? Oh my god. 700 now, the number of the others is increasing rapidly too. The crowd was immersed in an uproar. Love Go Little Say, Qin Nan was now firmly ranked first, as he had entered 1,020 graves. Behind him were Princess Meow Meow, the Longhu Dominator Beast, Sima Kong and Zhao Fang, who had all surpassed 500 graves. The reason being that Princess Meow Meow and the others possessed outstanding cultivations, allowing them to detect the dangers in the graves. Although their capabilities were slightly weaker than Qin Nan's left eye of the divine god of battle, they were still quite impressive. Furthermore, a mysterious man with the name Zero was ranked behind Zhao Fang. He had entered over 400 graves, and the number was still increasing. Quick update, the website is refreshing with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most. You must give me a good review. As for Xiao Zhonghuang, he was directly thrown to the 7th place, having only entered over 300 blood graves. At this moment, Death's attendant, Yang Fengzhu, and the others were dumbfounded. A peerless genius like Xiao Zhonghuang couldn't even make it into the top 5? What kind of freaks were these people? At the same time, outside the Sea of Death, Sacred Leader Feiyang suddenly rose from his seat and said with a smile, according to the time, Xiao Zhonghuang, Qin Nan, and the others should have entered the White Path and arrived at the first trial, the Bloodshed Tomb. I just happen to have a treasure here that can see the situation inside the Bloodshed Tomb. Now, let's see what kind of results Xiao Zhonghuang obtained. After hearing this, the expressions of Tang Qinshan and the others on the side of the Qinglong sacred area changed slightly. In the past, when the Sea of Death opened, no one was able to see the situation of the first stage of the competition. This time, when the Sea of Death opened, Sacred Leader Feiyang happened to possess a treasure that could allow him to see the situation. Was it really such a coincidence? With the intelligence of Tang Qinshan and the others, they immediately realized that the Feiyang sacred area must have done something to allow Xiao Zhonghuang to achieve such a brilliant result in the first stage of the Bloodshed Tomb. As such, Sacred Leader Feiyang purposely allowed everyone to see the situation of the first stage. What was the point of doing so? Imagine if Xiao Zhonghuang led the way in the first stage, leaving Qin Nan far behind. The crowd would surely think that Qin Nan was no match against Xiao Zhonghuang, thus they would surely mock him. When that happened, Tang Qingshan and the others, and the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, would surely have a bad impression of the situation, resulting in their state of mind being affected. Everyone knew that the state of mind was extremely important in a battle between experts. If Tang Qingshan and the others, as well as the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, had a bad impression of their state of mind, it would be easier to deal with them. As for Miao Yusin, Song Yu, Lu Jian, and the crowd of rogue cultivators, they were clueless about the situation. However, their eyes flickered after hearing sacred leader Feiyang's words, as they could not wait to see the situation of the first stage. According to our plan, Xiao Zhonghuang has entered at least 300 graves, while Qin Nan and the others have only entered a few tens of graves. Sacred leader Feiyang wore a disdainful grin as he glanced at Progenitor Wendao. Progenitor Wendao slightly raised his head. Everyone, this is the beast of death. I happened to stumble upon it, allowing me to see the situation of the first stage. Sacred leader Feiyang yelled as he took out a little beast with a flip of his hand. The little beast had the appearance of a toad with a pitch-black body. Only its eyes were crimson red. As sacred leader Feiyang inserted the energy into the toad, it was as if the toad had come alive. It uttered a few crimson rays emitted from its crimson eyes and formed a crimson barrier in the air. Through the barrier, the crowd immediately saw the bloodshed tomb, the Death's servant Yang Fengzhu and the others. Death's servant Tang Qingshan and the others had no choice but to raise their heads and see the Death's servant. Tang Qingshan's expression darkened as his eyes were filled with a murderous intent. Even after 100 years, this guy was still not devoured by the ocean of death. If Qin Nan is able to turn the tables around, Death's servant, I won't forgive you. Tang Qingshan took a deep breath to withhold his anger and took a closer look at the crimson barrier. He was not the only one. The crowd simultaneously glanced at the blood-red light screen and the ranking displayed by Death's servant. However, following a glimpse, the mocking expression on sacred leader Feiyang's face froze. Even the calm expression on progenitor Wendao's face changed tremendously. The crowd's faces were filled with astonishment. What was going on? The entire place fell silent for a period of over 10 breaths' time, before a great uproar took place. My God, Qin Nan managed to enter 1,500 graves. Gasp, terrifying, this is too terrifying. Haha, did you see that? He is ranked 7th. F***K. What kind of monsters are these? Princess Miao Miao, the Longhu Dominator Beast, Sima Kong, Jade Luosha, and that Zero. They all came here with Qin Nan. Could it be that they are all peerless geniuses? The crowd was left speechless. Xiao Zhonghuang possessed a first-grade D-ranked martial spirit. Not only was he defeated by Qin Nan, but he was defeated by 5 other geniuses too? This was too unbelievable. Ha! Tang Qingshan and the others, who had originally looked terrible, laughed out loud together. Sacred leader Feiyang purposely unleashed the beast of death to show the situation of the first stage to the crowd, just so they could see how powerful Xiao Zhonghuang was. However, sacred leader Feiyang did not expect the outcome to be so different. Whoosh! Sacred leader Feiyang's face reddened. If it weren't for the fact that he was a sacred leader with a calm heart, he would have completely lost his mind. Humph! Progenitor Wendao harumphed coldly with an unpleasant expression. Don't be too full of yourself. I don't care how many geniuses you have, this time, your Qinglong sacred area will be destroyed. Chapter 461. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 463. The Shameless Death of an Attendant. Ocean of Death, First Trial, Bloodshed Tomb. Full reading 79 XS. An hour was gone fairly quickly. The final result once again gave the crowd a great shock. Qin Nan, 2,197 tombs. Princess Miao Miao, 1,300 tombs. Sima Kong, 894 tombs. Longhu Ancestor Beast, 782 tombs. Zhao Feng, 776 tombs. 763 tombs. Xiao Zhonghuang, 415 tombs. Among the 87,000 tombs, only 7,000 of them were free of danger. Currently, Qin Nan and his crew had entered over 5,700 tombs, and more than half of them had been robbed by the people of the Qinglong sacred area. Xiao Zhonghuang had only led 800 people from the Feiyang sacred area. The difference between the two was 7 times greater. Ha ha ha! The Longhu Ancestor Beast wore a smile on his face. The loot this time was F*** King Great, and it was so effortless. Princess Miao Miao, Sima Kong, Zhao Feng, and the others shared the same reaction. A total of 4,000 primary stones, and various kinds of elixirs, etc. Qin Nan wore a calm smile on his face. However, his excitement did not last long, as he recalled the name 0 on the ranking. This mysterious 0 was able to discover over 700 tombs with his own strength, surpassing Xiao Zhonghuang's. Therefore, it was obvious that this 0 was no ordinary person. Besides, with such strength, he was at least a top genius of the lower district. Why had they never heard of him before? Qin Nan recalled the familiar feeling in his heart. He immediately executed his left eye of the divine god of battle and was about to take a closer look. However, at that instant, a prideful laugh could be heard. Quick update, refreshing website with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most, please give it a good review. The crowd could only see Xiao Zhonghuang walking out from a tomb in a high-spirited manner. At this moment, Xiao Zhonghuang was extremely excited. According to the help provided by the Feiyang sacred area, and the fact that his curse martial spirit had detected quite a number of graves at the end of the trial, he had managed to find over 400 graves. That was more than 400 of them. Even the Imperial Exterminator only had 300 of them. Such a result was more than enough to crush Qin Nan and the others. Ha ha ha, Qin Nan, I didn't expect you to still be alive. Xiao Zhonghuang's aura skyrocketed as he glanced at Qin Nan and the others with a disdainful look. How many graves have you entered? Is it 100 or 2? As soon as he said this, the entire audience fell silent. Whether it was Death's attendant, Yang Fengzhu, or the rogue cultivators, the corners of their mouths twitched at the same time. Didn't this Xiao Zhonghuang know to check the ranking before coming out? Qin Nan and the others glanced at him calmly, not bothering to say anything. Xiao Zhonghuang was infuriated when he saw this. These fellows actually dared to ignore him. This was simply preposterous. Hee, judging from your looks, I believe you've only entered a little over 100 graves, right? How embarrassing for peerless geniuses to only enter a few graves. Xiao Zhonghuang mocked. However, before he could finish his sentence, Yang Fengzhu and the others let out coughs as they could not stand it any longer. Yang Fengzhu said in a low voice, Zhonghuang, take a look at the ranking first. What difference does it make? I've already said that I'll surely come first this time. As for Qin Nan and the others, they are nothing to be afraid of. Xiao Zhonghuang interrupted Yang Fengzhu. In the midst of his mocking, he suddenly noticed the unpleasant expressions on the faces of Yang Fengzhu and the others. His heart skipped a beat. Did something happen? Having this thought, Xiao Zhonghuang turned around and glanced at the ranking in the sky. Following a glimpse, his expression changed tremendously. Are you kidding me? Over 2,000? Are you kidding me? He had entered over 700 graves, and he was only ranked 6th? The rogue cultivators could not help but burst out laughing after seeing Xiao Zhonghuang's expression. Ha! I'm dying of laughter! Xiao Zhonghuang's face is swollen this time. The rogue cultivators burst out laughing. The main reason being that Xiao Zhonghuang's reaction was too ridiculous. Yang Fengzhu and the others felt like their faces were on fire, and they could not wait to find a hole and hide inside it. Xiao Zhonghuang's expression changed tremendously after hearing the crowd's laughter and recalling the words he had just said. His face alternated between red and blue at times, as he felt extremely ashamed. This time, he had really lost a lot of face. Qin Nan glanced at Xiao Zhonghuang and ignored him. He then glanced at the death's attendant and brought his fists together. Senior, according to what you said, I've come first in the first round. Are you going to reward me with the heart of Bodhi? The words caused the crowd to stop laughing, as their eyes flickered with excitement. The heart of Bodhi. It could improve one's martial skill talent after consuming it. Although Qin Nan only possessed a 10th grade Xian-ranked martial spirit, which was a huge difference between his strength and Xiao Zhonghuang's, if Qin Nan were to consume the heart of Bodhi, it would be hard to predict the outcome of the battle at the Reaper's platform. The heart of Bodhi? However, to the crowd's surprise, the death's attendant snapped coldly, Qin Nan, I'm already being merciful by not punishing you, and you dare to ask for the heart of Bodhi? Let me tell you, the top 6 of you have all broken the rules. Normally, you should all be sentenced to death, but since you are all top geniuses, I won't punish you, nor will I pursue the matter. As for the reward, it will be given to the 7th-ranked Xiao Zhonghuang. Once these words were spoken, it was no less shocking than a thunderclap. Give the reward to Xiao Zhonghuang? The top 6 had all broken the rules? This was simply bullsh*t. Even the crowd of rogue cultivators could tell that the death's attendant was obviously siding with Xiao Zhonghuang. It was obvious that the death's attendant was planning to lend Xiao Zhonghuang a hand. Qin Nan's eyes turned cold. In addition to him, Princess Miao Miao, Sima Kong, the Longhu Dominator Beast, and Zhao Feng's eyes turned cold too. Was this death's attendant this shameless? Meanwhile, outside the ocean of death, the crowd who had yet to enter the ocean of death were able to observe the situation at the bloodshed tomb through the beast of death. Initially, when they saw Xiao Zhonghuang mocking Qin Nan, they could not help but burst out laughing, as they found it hilarious. However, their expressions changed after hearing the words of the death's attendant. Especially Song Yu, Miao Yusin, and Lu Jian, who were aware of the situation, glanced at sacred leader Feiyang and progenitor Wendao after hearing the words. Shameless! Tang Qingshan's eyes turned cold, as a terrifying murderous intent was fired into the sky. The faces of the Duanmu mountain lord and his crew were engulfed in flames of anger. They clearly knew that progenitor Wendao was the one behind all this. Shameless? Tang Qingshan, mind your words. Progenitor Wendao harumphed while emitting a terrifying aura before he burst out laughing. Sacred Lord Blue Dragon, I'm sorry, but they have all broken the rules. Initially, Xiao Zhonghuang's martial skill talent was already outstanding. Now that he has acquired the heart of Bodhi, I can't help but wonder how strong he will be. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 462. Genius 1 Second. Remember love divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 464. The Underworld Bridge. The eyes of Song Yu, Miao Yusin, and Lu Jian glistened. Love go little Sage W Chew $, cotton, flower candy little say. 79XS, as expected of progenitor Wendao, even though Xiao Zhonghuang had a first-grade D-ranked martial spirit, he would not let go of any chance to win. The crowd held their breaths too. As progenitor Wendao had mentioned, how powerful would Xiao Zhonghuang be after acquiring the heart of Bodhi? If Qin Nan were to face him at the Reaper's platform, he would most likely be crushed instantly. Shameless bastard! The eyes of Tang Qingshan and his crew flickered with a tremendous murderous intent. They had all been proud geniuses 100 years ago. Now that they were being bullied, they could no longer hold back their anger. What's there to be afraid of? As the four were about to become enraged, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon calmly said, "Calm down, don't be angry." Master Tang Qingshan and his crew were about to say something, but they immediately shut their mouths after seeing the gaze of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. They had no choice but to swallow their anger. Progenitor Wendao wore a cold grin on his face. This sacred Lord Blue Dragon was still able to remain calm. He would like to see if he could still remain so calm at the Reaper's platform. Ocean of Death, First Trial, Bloodshed Tomb. The Death's servant ignored the crowd's gaze and flicked his finger, causing a crystal-like fruit the size of a head to land in Xiao Zhonghuang's hand. As Xiao Zhonghuang held the fruit, the humiliation he had suffered before instantly exploded as he burst out laughing. "Qin Nan, so what if you've come first? Isn't the heart of Bodhi still mine in the end?" While laughing, Xiao Zhonghuang did not lose his mind, as he swiftly devoured the heart of Bodhi. Boom! Wisps of mystical glow burst out from Xiao Zhonghuang's body, resulting in a mystical aura. "You're courting death." Qin Nan's eyes suddenly spat out countless lightning bolts. He then stomped his foot as his aura was awakened like a ferocious beast, shocking the heavens and earth. Upon seeing this, Yang Fengzhu and the others who were still laughing immediately changed their auras and faced Qin Nan. This Qin Nan was still so arrogant. There were 18 peak leaders and many martial dominator realm experts on their side, yet they still dared to attack? "How dare you!" The Death's attendant in the sky shouted. "You are not allowed to fight in the first stage of the Death God's 3 stages. If you do, you will be disqualified and will never be able to ascend to the top of the Death God's platform." Qin Nan stopped and raised his head. He looked at the Death's attendant with an incomparably cold gaze. "Qin Nan, don't do it!" At that instant, Sima Kong suddenly transmitted his voice to Qin Nan. "The Death's attendant is appointed by the undead of the Ocean of Death to be the one in charge of the trial. He possesses great authority, thus we shouldn't offend him now. However, don't you worry, once we arrive at the Reaper's platform, the Death's attendant will surely be punished by the Ocean of Death." Hearing this, Qin Nan was slightly startled, before he glanced at Sima Kong in astonishment. He did not expect Sima Kong to know so much about the trial. This Death's attendant once tried to harm Senior Imperial Exterminator, and now he's obviously siding with Xiao Zhonghuang. He must be planning something. However, they have no idea that I have a 5th grade D-ranked martial spirit. Besides, in terms of martial skill talent, Xiao Zhonghuang is surely no match against me. The murderous intent in Qin Nan's heart gradually calmed down. Now that Progenitor Wendao was outside, and the Death's attendant was inside the Ocean of Death, there was no time for him to reveal too much. He would only make his move at the Reaper's platform. Although he was displeased, he had to endure it for the sake of the Imperial Exterminator and the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Humph! The scornful looks on the faces of Yang Fengzhu and the others grew thicker when they saw Qin Nan not daring to make his move. Does he really think he's someone important? Without the protection of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, who do you think you are, Qin Nan? The second trial begins now. The Death's attendant glanced at Qin Nan disdainfully and said, "I forgot to mention the rules of the first trial. Those who are chosen by the Death's attendant are not required to enter the Crimson Tomb. This one, and that one." The Death's attendant reached out his finger and pointed at Yang Fengzhu and his crew, as well as 10 peak martial dominator realm experts. When the cultivators saw this, they couldn't help but be enraged. Shameless. It was simply shameless to the extreme. The Death's attendant's action was completely unfair. The Death's attendant was aware of the crowd's gaze, who glanced at them coldly and said, "Do you have any objections?" Although the rogue cultivators were furious, they could not help but feel a chill down their spines after being stared at by the Death's attendant. After all, this Death's attendant was a half-martial sacred realm presence. The suppression emitted from his body was nothing ordinary. This guy, Princess Miao Miao squinted her eyes. The Longhu ancestor beast and Zhao Fong wore cold expressions. They knew their limits. Although they were furious, they had no choice but to endure it. Proceed to the second trial. The death's attendant waved his hand, causing countless streams of black smoke to appear, which transformed into a giant beast that encapsulated the 29 cultivators, the 5 cultivators on Qin Nan's side, the mysterious Zero, and more than 10 rogue cultivators. Qin Nan could only feel his figure floating in the air, before sinking to the ground. The black smoke surrounding him disappeared too. Qin Nan vaguely sensed something, causing his expression to change tremendously as he raised his head. In front of them was a terrifying river. The river was over 1,000 zhang wide, as if it had been split apart by a heaven-defying divine sword. It meandered in all directions, and no one could tell where it ended up. The water of the river was the color of blood, as if countless streams of blood had gathered together. Deep within the river, countless pitch-black figures could be seen struggling and roaring. The sheer number of them was enough to cause one's scalp to go numb. These figures were all dead spirits. Bang! In the midst of the crowd's astonishment, an explosion took place above the terrifying river. Following this, an ink-like glow was emitted from the opposite side of the river, which extended toward the crowd and landed before them. The black light shuddered before transforming into a stone bridge. The bridge was around 8 zhang wide. It was dark red in color, as if it was made of solidified blood. In addition to that, the bridge was covered in countless ravines. Each of the ravines had a profound aura, as if a great battle had taken place here in ancient times. A stone tablet appeared in front of everyone. This stone tablet was as tall as 3 people. In the middle of the stone tablet there were 3 large words written in blood. Chapter 463. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 465. The Great Battle is Triggered. The Underworld Bridge. According to the ancient legends, after one dies, crossing the underworld bridge and drinking Mengpa's soup would allow one to be reincarnated. Advertisement. Access. Below the underworld bridge is the Mengpa River. When crossing the bridge, if one's cultivation is not strong enough and his mind is unstable, he will be invaded by demons and fall into the Mengpa River, turning into a dead spirit. The death's attendant stuck out its crimson tongue and licked its lips, before it said, "You should have seen the vengeful spirits and dead spirits in the Mengpa River. They were all extremely powerful existences when they were alive. Even if you are a Martial Highness realm expert, you will still die after falling into the Mengpa River. The second trial is to cross the underworld bridge. Whoever crosses it first will come first in the trial, and will be rewarded with a drop of Tao liquid." After hearing this, Princess Miao Miao let out a hollow laugh and said, "This Tao liquid is used to improve one's martial skill talent, and its effect is on par with the heart of Bodhi. If I'm not mistaken, this Tao liquid is specially prepared for Xiao Zhonghuang, right? If that's the case, what's the point of this trial?" The eyes of the Longhu ancestor beast and the others turned even colder after hearing the words. The first trial, the heart of Bodhi. The second trial, the Tao liquid. The first 2 trials of the god of death were meant to pave the way for Xiao Zhonghuang. The death's attendant's expression remained the same as he said in a cold tone, "So what if I am? So what if I'm not? I'm the one in charge of the 3 trials of the god of death. It's your business whether you want to take part in the second trial or not. If you don't want to, I'll send you out at once." "Send me out immediately? You're just a mere death's attendant. How can you be so lawless?" Princess Miao Miao's face was filled with a ferocious aura, as her entire cultivation became restless. "Princess Miao Miao, don't do it." Qin Nan immediately reached out his hand and grabbed her figure. He shook his head at her. Right now, there was no need for him to be angry at the Death's attendant. Regardless of whether it was the private use of public power or a special arrangement, in the face of absolute power, all schemes would vanish into thin air. Full-text reading, since they were so shameless and arrogant, he would let them be smug for a while. Xiao Zhonghuang, Yang Fengzhu, and the others became even more confident after seeing this, as their gazes became even more disdainful. The heart of Bodhi and the Tao liquid. With the help of these two rare artifacts, a mere Qin Nan was nothing in the battle of the Reaper's platform. A trace of disdain appeared in Death's attendant's eyes. Then, he said indifferently, after you cross the bridge of helplessness, you can enter the Reaper's platform and enter the third stage. Now, the second stage of the competition will begin. The time limit is 4 hours. In addition, you can use force on the bridge of helplessness. You can use force. The words caused the atmosphere of the place to freeze instantly. Xiao Feiping, Yang Fengzhu, and the others glanced at Qin Nan's figure with ferocious expressions. Qin Nan wore a calm expression, as if he was not affected at all. Princess Miao Miao, the Longhu Dominator Beast, Sima Kong, Zhao Fang, and the others behind him became excited, as if something was boiling in their eyes. Bullying them in 2 stages in a row, did he really think they were easy targets? As for the rogue cultivators, they shivered in fear. They would rather not be involved in the battle and suffer the consequences. Love go little say W Chu begin. The Death's attendant uttered a roar as he flung his leg and dragged the crowd onto the bridge of helplessness. As soon as Qin Nan stepped onto the bridge of helplessness, he could hear countless screams echoing in his ears. The screams penetrated his eardrums and penetrated his mind, as if they were going to shatter his mind into pieces. Under the bridge of helplessness, in the Mengpa River, countless dead creatures began to roar excitedly as though they had seen food. Their hideous and distorted bodies continuously rose from the river and charged towards the dozens of figures on the bridge at the same time. You did not cheat in the first stage, which is a great contribution. I shall grant you the Reaper's talismans, preventing you from being disturbed by the demons. The Death's attendant stood high up in the sky. With a flick of his finger, 29 talismans landed on Xiao Zhonghuang, Peak Leader Yang, and the others. The death talismans burned vigorously, turning into clouds of death aura that encapsulated their figures. The figures of Xiao Zhonghuang and the others shuddered. Their initially painful expressions were relieved, as if they were not affected by the talismans. The dead creatures surging toward them from below did not seem to be aware of their presence. Their gazes were fixed onto Qin Nan and the others as they charged toward them while uttering roars. Damn it, how shameless! I can't stand it any longer. Tao Heart of 10,000, Spirit Protection Curse. Sima Kong let out a curse after seeing this. He did not expect this Death's attendant to go this far in order to help Xiao Zhonghuang and the others cross the bridge. He then flicked his finger, firing a few rays of light onto the figures of the group. Qin Nan could only feel that the rays of light were righteous and impenetrable. The screams echoing in his ears instantly vanished. The dead creatures surging toward them from below did not dare to move, as if they had encountered their natural enemy. Hee. Sima Kong let out a prideful laugh and glanced at the Death's attendant in a provoking manner. The Death's attendant's face turned cold. He did not expect this guy to have mastered a Tao art. Humph, so what if you manage to dodge it? You guys keep Qin Nan busy. It's best if you can knock Qin Nan into the Mengpa River. I'll go first. Xiao Zhonghuang's face was filled with disdain as he glanced at Qin Nan and the others, before dashing toward the underworld bridge. Qin Nan, you son of a bitch, die! Yang Fengzhu, the 18 peak leaders, and the 10 martial dominator realm experts uttered furious roars. They had long suppressed the hatred in their hearts. Not to mention that there were 28 experts here, who would surely teach Qin Nan and his crew a lesson. You bunch of assholes, I've long found you an eyesore. The Longhu ancestor beast uttered a roar as his body emitted a golden glow, which transformed his figure into a giant dragon head and a tiger body. Go! The Longhu ancestor beast let out a roar toward Qin Nan and the others. Qin Nan, Princess Miao Miao, Sima Kong, and Zhao Fang leapt onto the back of the Longhu ancestor beast. The Longhu ancestor beast carried the four of them as his enormous figure sprang forward like a giant mountain, charging toward Yang Fengzhu and the others at a rapid pace. Yang Fengzhu and the rest of the 28 cultivators wore mocking looks in their eyes. A mere 5 people dared to fight against so many of them? Everyone knew that these 18 cultivators were all peak leaders previously, but they had suppressed their cultivation to the peak martial dominator realm with the help of the blood-devouring technique. Despite that, their understanding of martial arts was still outstanding, thus they were no ordinary peak martial dominator realm cultivators. The other 10 cultivators were also the elites among the martial dominator realm experts. How could Qin Nan and his crew stand a chance against such a powerful formation? Not to mention that the Death's attendant was on their side. The corners of Death's attendant's mouth curled into a faint smile when he saw this. As for the 10+ rogue cultivators, when they saw that a great battle had been triggered, their figures shook and they swiftly dodged to the sides of the Bridge of Helplessness. They utilized various magic treasures and cultivation techniques to resist the invasion of the dead spirits and began to cross the bridge. Among the rogue cultivators, only the black-robed cultivator with the name Zero slowly raised his head as his eyes flickered with a sharp gaze. Using their authority to change the rules and bully Qin Nan. Now, they were planning to team up against Qin Nan with the advantage of numbers. Did they really think Qin Nan was such a pushover? That was his brother. The sharp gaze of the black-robed cultivator instantly transformed into a terrifying murderous intent. Chapter 464. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 466, The Successor of the 9 Symbolic Words. Outside the Ocean of Death, at the gathering place of the 2 sacred areas. Quick update, the website is refreshing with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most, please leave a good review. That's fast. The beast of death in sacred leader Feiyang's hand exploded into pieces and turned into a black mist, causing the crowd to cast confused glances toward him. Sacred leader Feiyang glanced at the Imperial Exterminator and said in a calm tone, "My beast of death can only see the first trial. It won't be able to see the second trial, the Underworld Bridge. However, you are allowed to fight in the second trial, the Underworld Bridge." Although they were unable to see the second trial, the following few words caused the crowd to be astounded. Allowed to fight. Xiao Zhonghuang had 18 peak leaders and many peak martial dominator realm experts on his side, while Qin Nan only had a few people on his side. If they were to clash against each other, Qin Nan would surely be at a disadvantage. Tang Qingshan and the others were stunned, but they remained silent. The reward for the second trial is a drop of Dao liquid, which is able to improve one's martial skill talent. Progenitor Wen Dao added at the right time. The words served as a great blow to the crowd. Song Yu, Lu Jian, and Miao Yusin, who were disciples of formidable factions, could not help but exclaim in their hearts. This progenitor Wen Dao was indeed impressive. The first trial was the Heart of Bodhi, and the second trial was the Dao liquid. How outstanding would his martial skill talent be when he reached the Reaper's platform? Even the 3 of them would not stand a chance against him. Sacred Lord Blue Dragon, do you think Qin Nan will be able to reach the Reaper's platform? Progenitor Wen Dao asked all of a sudden with a disdainful look in his eyes. Sacred Leader Qin Long glanced at him with an indifferent expression, but did not say a word. The crowd could not help but let out sighs. On the Underworld Bridge, Qin Nan would be intercepted by a powerful force. Furthermore, even if Qin Nan managed to survive the attacks of the 18 peak leaders, he would not stand a chance against Xiao Zhonghuang at the Reaper's platform in the third trial. The result of the duel was obvious. Sea of Death, second trial, Bridge of Helplessness. Bastard die. Among the 18 peak leaders, 3 of them uttered raging roars. Their figures began to expand at the same time, emitting a powerful force. These 3 peak leaders were all body-tempering experts when they were still alive. Despite being suppressed by the blood-devouring seal, their flesh was still incredibly terrifying, as if 3 giant mountains were crashing toward Qin Nan. Roar! The Longhu ancestor beast uttered a ferocious roar as his enormous figure emitted a golden glow, which transformed into the ferocious golden body of the tiger. Without any sign of backing off, he collided with the 3 peak leaders. Boom! On the entire Bridge of Helplessness, an incomparably terrifying force swept out, shaking in all directions. The 3 peak leaders were astounded, as they did not expect the Longhu Dominator beast's beast form to be so powerful, to be able to come to a draw with them. Little did they know that the Longhu ancestor beast had gone into seclusion for a few months and devoured the body of a dragon, causing his body to become incredibly powerful. He could even resist the attack of a first-layer Martial Highness Realm expert, let alone 3 peak Martial Dominator Realm peak leaders. Kill. Yang Fengzhu and the rest of the 25 experts unleashed shocking murderous intents, unleashing various martial spirits, martial arts, and mystical weapons, resulting in a brilliant glow that shrouded the heavens and earth, resulting in a terrifying aura that swept in Qin Nan's direction. Blossoming of the flower, 7 deadly sword intent. Princess Miao Miao was the first to utter a roar, as she flicked her finger, causing countless pink glows to be emitted from the figures of the 25 cultivators. Following this, a 7-colored demonic flower blossomed, as a tremendous sword intent was emitted from the center of the flower. Princess Miao Miao had yet to rank up to the Martial Dominator realm, thus her cultivation was still at the peak of the Martial Ancestor realm. However, after absorbing Qin Nan's Chaos Qi, she had recovered a significant portion of her primary force, allowing her strength to reach the 5th-layer Martial Dominator realm. A 5th-layer Martial Dominator realm cultivation was not enough to make a difference in this battle, but it was enough to stall the 25 cultivators for a breath's time. A breath's time was extremely important. Disordered Heart Powder. Zhao Feng spread his hands and spat out a puff of smoke from his mouth, which encapsulated the crowd. It turned out that the Disordered Heart Powder was an atavistic forbidden medicine. Once encapsulated by the Disordered Heart Powder, even a peak Martial Dominator realm expert would feel dizzy for a period of time. The forbidden medicine was initially used by Zhao Feng to deal with Qin Nan, but he did not expect it to come in handy here. Tao-breaking talisman. Sima Kong uttered a roar as he flung his sleeves, causing 25 talismans to land on the 7-colored flower. Following this, the talismans exploded into blazing flames that encapsulated the 25 cultivators. The series of attacks were executed at a rapid pace, which only took a breath's time. Although Princess Miao Miao, Zhao Feng, and Sima Kong's cultivations were only equivalent to the 5th-layer Martial Dominator realm or the 4th-layer Martial Dominator realm, they were extremely experienced, thus their teamwork was flawless and smooth. Despite the outstanding cultivations of the 25 cultivators, their movements were hindered by the ferocious attacks. In just a brief moment, Qin Nan had made his move. He and the Longhu ancestor beast were the strongest among the 5 cultivators. The Longhu ancestor beast blocked the crowd with his flesh, allowing Princess Miao Miao and the others to hold the crowd back, while he attacked. Exploding thunder of the galaxy, flames of the phoenix, boundless saber intent, suppression of the nascent soul. Qin Nan uttered a roar as he spat out the nascent soul from his mouth. As soon as the nascent soul appeared, The smile on the face of the death's attendant in midair froze as his eyes widened. What kind of nascent soul was that? The nascent soul floated above the 25 cultivators as its 33 golden dragon lines glowed brightly while emitting a series of dragon roars. Following this, countless sky thunders, flames of the phoenix, and icy saber intents poured down ferociously like a flood, encapsulating the 25 cultivators within an instant. Shit! Yang Fengzhu and the others were dumbfounded. They did not expect Qin Nan's nascent soul to become stronger again. Unleash your killing blows! Yang Fengzhu snapped. The remaining 15 peak leaders unleashed their auras at a terrifying rate, as their attacks were perfectly aligned with the heavens and earth, resulting in a continuous stream of attacks aimed at the nascent soul. The martial highness realm was considered to be a highly skilled martial highness, thus their understanding of martial arts was utterly terrifying. Although the attacks seemed simple, they actually contained a powerful force. Even Qin Nan's 33 golden dragon-lined nascent soul began to tremble vigorously under the ferocious attacks. Ha ha ha! Qin Nan, do you really think 2 mere peak martial dominator realm cultivators are enough to stop the 28 of us here? What wishful thinking! Just wait for your death. Peak Master Yang laughed ear-piercingly. Princess Miao Miao and the others were startled. Yang Fengzhu was not lying. Even though Qin Nan's nascent soul was outstanding, it could only suppress the enemy for a short period of time. After all, Qin Nan was only one person. Cut the crap! Before Yang Fengzhu could finish laughing, Qin Nan's eyes were filled with a boundless battle intent as he began to go crazy. So what if there were 28 of them? Even if there were 100 of them here today, he would fight until he was worn out and his head was bleeding. He would never back off. However, at that instant a rare occurrence took place. Bang! A boundless glow was emitted, which transformed into a terrifying dragon that penetrated the space between Yang Fengzhu and the others, resulting in a series of explosions. The power of the explosions caused the faces of Yang Fengzhu and the others to turn pale. The shocking change took place too suddenly. Even Qin Nan and the others did not expect it to happen. Die! Chapter 465. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? SegNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 467. Being ambushed. Who's there? The death servant Yang Fengzhu and the others were startled. A love go little say, W. Chu advertisement. For more information, visit www. The aura was incredibly powerful, which was on par with Qin Nan's. However, who was it that dared to oppose the Feiyang sacred area and help Qin Nan? A figure flashed across the minds of the death servant, Yang Fengzhu, and the others all of a sudden. It was the rogue cultivator with the name Zero, who had come 7th in the first trial of the bloodshed tomb. This is, Princess Miao Miao was stunned too. The figure with a powerful aura turned around and let out a calm smile toward Qin Nan. It's been half a year since we last met, right? You haven't changed at all. The person was none other than Gong Yang. He had been cultivating the succession of the 9 symbolic words while paying close attention to the happenings in the lower district. When the Ocean of Death was activated, he was informed of Qin Nan's current situation, thus he immediately came out of seclusion to lend Qin Nan a hand. Brother Yang. Qin Nan was overjoyed. He did not expect to reunite with his brother at this moment. Princess Miao Miao collected her thoughts. She did not expect the man to be Gong Yang. That's enough, now is not the time for us to catch up. Leave these people to us. You should head to the underworld bridge at once and chase after Xiao Zhonghuang. Gong Yang was no longer the same as before. His tone was firm and filled with an imperious aura. Qin Nan immediately unleashed his left eye of the divine god of battle and glimpsed at Gong Yang. After discovering his cultivation, his heart shuddered, and he replied without hesitation, "Sure." Following this, Qin Nan withdrew his nascent soul with a kick and dashed forward. Trying to escape? In your dreams. Yang Fengzhu and the rest of the 25 people were furious. They didn't know where this guy came from, but if he wanted to rely on this guy to stop all of them, he was too arrogant. 25 peak martial emperors went berserk in an instant. Their auras were terrifying. Although I can't kill you, it's more than enough to stop you. Gong Yang uttered a roar as he raised his hand and slapped toward the 25 cultivators. An ancient Bing character was emitted from his palm. Kill, 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 kill. In an instant, monstrous killing intent filled the bridge of helplessness. Countless ancient figures appeared. Each figure was like a powerful warrior that charged at the 25 experts in a frenzy. Each word of the 9 symbolic words was incredibly profound, causing the experts of the Kanglan continent to drool over them. Although Gong Yang's army character could not regain its former power, it was more than enough to summon the spirits of the divine soldiers. Battle! Gong Yang did not stop there. He uttered another roar as 4 ancient battle characters were emitted from his body. The characters entered the bodies of the Longhu Dominator Beast, Princess Miao Miao, Sima Kong and Zhao Feng, causing their auras to skyrocket. How powerful! The eyes of Princess Miao Miao, Sima Kong, and Zhao Feng flickered with astonishment. They did not expect Qin Nan's brother to be this powerful, causing them to let out excited roars as they charged toward the 25 experts. Although their cultivation bases were not high enough, these people were all dragons and phoenixes among men, peerless geniuses with endless means. At that instant, the situation changed instantly. Yang Fengzhu and the rest of the 28 experts were trapped by Gong Yang's group of 5. Qin Nan glanced at the situation behind him and calmed his thoughts. He unleashed his cultivation and crossed the underworld bridge. Each step he took caused countless cries of vengeful spirits to echo in his ears. Even Sima Kong's Dao art was gradually weakened. Following this, countless illusions appeared in front of Qin Nan, which were the figures of Qin Tian, Tai San, and the others. Those close to Qin Nan wore twisted expressions as they uttered roars. How firm is my martial heart! How dare mere phantoms mess with me? Qin Nan uttered a roar as an ancient bell appeared above him. Following a loud chime, the mysterious force of the underworld bridge was shattered into pieces. Qin Nan stomped the ground as countless sky thunders encapsulated his figure. The heart-calming demonic vanquishing art, vanquishing the demons. The sky thunders originated from the ancient starry sky, which were unbreakable. Qin Nan's speed skyrocketed as he chased after Xiao Zhonghuang on the underworld bridge. Xiao Zhonghuang initially wore a relaxed expression, but when he sensed the aura behind him, his expression changed tremendously as he blurted out in astonishment, "Qin Nan, how is this possible? Die!" Qin Nan's left eye of the divine god of battle emitted a brilliant thunderous glow. Together with the nascent soul in his body, an illusionary eye appeared above Xiao Zhonghuang's head, which fired a tremendous thunderous glow in Xiao Zhonghuang's direction. Xiao Zhonghuang's expression changed tremendously as his eyes were filled with a hint of panic. His cultivation was only at the 7th layer martial dominator realm. There was no way he would stand a chance against Qin Nan. If he were to stumble into Qin Nan, he would most likely be killed before reaching the top of the Reaper's platform. Shit! The faces of Yang Fengzhu and the others turned pale white. They had not expected the situation to change so quickly, placing them in a disadvantageous position all of a sudden. If Xiao Zhonghuang were to be killed in the second round, how were they going to explain it to progenitor Wendao? Princess Miao Miao, the Longhu ancestor beast, and the others were startled, as their eyes flickered vigorously. Once Xiao Zhonghuang was killed, everything would come to an end. You've broken the rules. I'll punish you on behalf of the ocean of death. Piss off at once. At that instant, a shocking roar could be heard. The Death's servant's pitch-black hair danced wildly as his crimson eyes emitted a crimson glow. His figure sprang forward and slapped at Qin Nan's figure. Qin Nan's expression changed tremendously. This Death's servant was a half-martial sacred realm presence with a terrifying cultivation. How could he possibly stand a chance against him? Before Qin Nan could react, he could only feel his figure being struck by the terrifying force of the palm, causing his bones to shatter into pieces. His figure was sent flying before he could even hear the sound of his bones shattering. Princess Miao Miao, Gong Yang, and the others were dumbfounded. They had not expected the Death's servant to attack all of a sudden. However, the Death's servant's cultivation was too powerful, and the attack happened too quickly. They could not stop it in time. When they collected their thoughts, Qin Nan's figure was sent flying like an arrow being fired, falling into the crimson Mengpa River, which was filled with countless cries of aggrieved souls. The aggrieved souls in the Mengpa River became even more excited, as if they had just seen a delicacy. Chapter 466. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second/Small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 468. Lightning Punishment of Spiritual Lightning. The Mengpa River was the place where the most dead spirits gathered in the entire Sea of Death. The Death's attendant knew very well that as long as he threw Qin Nan into the Mengpa River, Qin Nan would definitely die. Ha ha ha, Qin Nan, how dare you attack me? Xiao Zhonghuang was slightly startled when he saw this. He immediately let out an ear-piercing laugh with an excited expression on his face. With a kick, his figure rapidly charged toward the other side of the underworld bridge. Let's go! The faces of Yang Fengzhu and the others lit up with joy. They no longer lingered in the battle and left together. Qin Nan was dead. Do they still have any scruples? Princess Miao Miao and the others were nothing to be afraid of. Qin Nan. Upon seeing this, Princess Miao Miao's pupils shrank to the size of needles. Without any hesitation, she took a step forward and flew toward the direction where Qin Nan had fallen. Come back! However, at that instant, the Longhu ancestor beast suddenly reached out his hand and grabbed her figure, before he uttered a roar. Are you out of your mind? You will die if you continue to jump down like that. Let go of me! Princess Miao Miao's eyes were filled with raging flames of fury. No matter if it was life or death, she would absolutely not watch helplessly as Qin Nan was swallowed up by the boundless specters before her. All of you, quiet down. Gong Yang suddenly shouted, don't be impulsive. You have to believe in Qin Nan. He won't die. Even the Mengpa River can't take his life. His words were resolute and decisive without the slightest hesitation. Princess Miao Miao was startled. She thought of the divine object that appeared in the Longhu mountain range, and her heart immediately became firm. There are almost all the books you want to read. It's much more stable than the average website, and it updates faster. It's all text without advertisement. Yes, Qin Nan would never die. As for Xiao Zhonghuang, Yang Fengzhu's group, and Death's attendant, when they heard this, a wisp of a mocking smile appeared on the corners of their mouths. What a joke! Wouldn't one die after falling into the Mengpa River? This Qin Nan was not a god. Death's attendant, Princess Miao Miao, the Longhu dominator beast, and the others glanced toward the Death's attendant, as their eyes were filled with a tremendous fury. It was one thing for him to bully others and use his power for personal gain. Now, he actually dared to do it himself. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're the Death's attendant. Sima Kong was infuriated for once as green veins popped out on his forehead. The 9 deities of the heavens, the art of soul hooking, the spirit of the dead ocean, what are you waiting for? Sima Kong waved his hand, causing 3 talismans to appear in his hand. The talismans burst into flames on their own, emitting thick smoke that soared into the sky. "What are you?" The Death's attendant wore a doubtful look. He had possessed the half-life realm when he was still alive, thus he had witnessed countless tricks in the eastern continent of the Upper District. He had once heard that someone was able to use the talismans to worship the heavens and awaken the demonic gods. Could it be that this guy was worshipping the ocean of death? In the midst of his astonishment, a shocking change took place in the sky above the ocean of death. Countless dark clouds could be seen gathering in the sky, which shrouded the sun in the blink of an eye. In the middle of the clouds, a giant vortex was formed, within which countless thunderbolts could be seen. At that instant, outside the ocean of death, where the two sacred areas were facing off against each other, Progenitor Wendao, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, sacred leader Feiyong, and the others were the first to be aware of the rare phenomenon. They immediately glanced toward the ocean of death, and saw the entire ocean becoming restless. "What's going on?" Progenitor Wendao frowned. The rest of the crowd was aware of the change too. Only the third trial of the Death God's platform would cause a rare phenomenon to take place on the surface of the ocean. It was only the second trial. Why would such a rare phenomenon take place all of a sudden? Meanwhile, at the second trial of the ocean of death, the underworld bridge. Roar. A shocking roar could be heard coming from the vortex, as a giant pitch-black hand descended from it and grabbed in the direction of the Death's attendant's figure. Even though the Death's attendant's cultivation had reached the half-martial sacred realm, he was as tiny as an ant before the terrifying hand. The reason being that the owner of the hand was the spirit of the ocean of death. "Ocean of death, you can't kill me. I'm in charge of the 3 trials." The Death's attendant was utterly terrified after seeing this, as he uttered a scream, completely losing his previous imperious attitude. The giant pitch-black hand halted slightly, as if it was hesitating about something. After a while, it slowly withdrew. The Death's attendant's heart skipped a beat after seeing this. He could not help but let out a sigh of relief, as a sense of loss could be felt from his body. Therefore, his eyes flickered with a ferocious look. As long as his plan worked, he would be able to recover his flesh, leave the ocean of death, and rank up to the martial sacred realm. He had been trapped in the ocean of death for a few hundred years. He had enough of his current appearance, and he had enough of being a servant of the ocean of death. For the sake of freedom, everything was worth it. Although the ocean of death would punish him for breaking the rules after the 3 trials, he would have successfully escaped by then. Furthermore, with Progenitor Wendao's help, there was nothing to worry about. If it weren't for his fear of the ocean of death, he would have destroyed Qin Nan with a single punch. Why did he have to destroy Qin Nan? Although Xiao Zhonghuang would win the trial, he would not allow any mistakes to be made. "Ha ha ha ha, trying to destroy me with the ocean of death? You're dreaming." The Death's attendant turned his head around and burst out laughing at Sima Kong. Once he got out of here, he would tear them into pieces. However, before he could finish his words, countless bolts of lightning suddenly shot out from the pitch-black vortex in the sky and began to travel through the sky toward him. Bang! 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 The thunderbolts struck the Death's attendant's body without mercy. As an inanimate being, the Death's attendant was extremely afraid of thunderbolts, not to mention the thunderbolts from the ocean of death. At this instant, Death's attendant felt as if the bolts of heavenly lightning were like poisonous whips that were covered in spikes, and they ruthlessly struck his body, causing him to hold his head and scream miserably. Bang! 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 After a total of 138 thunderbolts, the stormy clouds in the sky finally dissipated, returning the place to calm. At that instant, the Death's attendant was scorched black by the thunderbolts, causing his figure to tremble violently. His eyes were filled with terror, which finally dissipated after a period of over 10 breaths' time. It was replaced with a ferocious look as he glanced at Sima Kong and the others, before he squeezed out a voice from his throat. "I swear. I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death, worse than death. The short sentence was like the roar of a demon. After uttering the roar, the death's servant no longer dared to do anything else. With a flicker, its figure flew toward the opposite side of the underworld bridge. In the midst of its flight, it did not forget to burst out laughing. Ha ha, this is the Mungpa River. If Qin Nan were to fall into it, countless dead souls would tear his flesh apart and tear his heart apart, ha ha ha. Chapter 467. Genius 1 second. Remember love/go/little? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 469. The Reaper's Platform, Death's Attendant. Princess Miao Miao, the Longhu ancestor beast, Zhao Fang, and Sima Kong were enraged, causing their figures to tremble violently, while their auras became unstable. Almost all the books you want to read are available. It's more stable than the other websites, and the updates are faster too. It's all text with no advertisements. The updates are so fast. Even Gong Yang's eyes were emitting an icy aura like never before. This death's attendant was still so detestable after being punished by the spirit of the ocean of death. This is too much. Calm down, everyone, you must calm down. Gong Yang took a few deep breaths to withhold his anger and said, "We can't be reckless. We are still in the trial of the god of death, thus we can't resist the authority and cultivation of the death's attendant. I must head to the Reaper's platform now. Otherwise, when Qin Nan returns, he won't be able to handle the situation on his own." Qin Nan had returned. The words seemed to be magical, which penetrated the hearts of Princess Miao Miao and the others. Gong Yang was right. Qin Nan would be back soon. They had to endure it. Princess Miao Miao glanced at the Mungpa River, but she could not see Qin Nan's figure no matter how hard she tried. She could feel a sharp pain in her heart, causing her to clench her fists and utter a roar, "Let's go!" Gong Yang and the others nodded their heads, before the five of them crossed the underworld bridge at a rapid pace. The underworld bridge was extremely mysterious. Even Xiao Zhonghuang, Yang Fengzhu, and Princess Miao Miao's crew took an hour to cross it. Love go/little say/netku fast update, refreshing website with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most, please leave a good comment. Xiao Zhonghuang, Yang Fengzhu, and the others laughed mockingly when they saw Princess Miao Miao and the others, but didn't say anything. Qin Nan had fallen into the Mungpa River, and the outcome was already decided. There was no need to ridicule him. Once he finished ascending the Reaper's platform and refined the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, he would deal with this group of people. Xiao Zhonghuang, first to cross the bridge. Reward: Dao Law Elixir. Death's servant looked at Princess Miao Miao, Gong Yang, and the others. It licked its lips and waved its hand. A drop of dreamy purple liquid fell between Xiao Zhonghuang's brows. In the blink of an eye, the purple liquid emitted a profound light and turned into a purple flame that was engraved on his forehead. Xiao Zhonghuang's figure shuddered violently. His spirit, qi, and spirit were strengthened once again, causing his aura to become even more mystical. To the Reaper's platform, the eyes of Death's servant flickered with excitement. After waiting for such a long time, the day had finally arrived. It then waved its hand and dragged the crowd into a rift. Outside the ocean of death, where the two sacred areas were facing each other. Love go little sake w due to the rare occurrence of the ocean of death. The crowd stared at the ocean of death without blinking, as they were afraid of missing any details. Judging from the time, the Reaper's platform should be appearing soon. Bang! Without any warning, a shocking explosion took place on the boundless pitch-black surface of the sea, causing a huge pitch-black hole with a circumference of 10 miles to be blasted open on the surface of the sea. Countless amounts of seawater soared into the sky and sprinkled down chaotically like a heavy rain. The sudden occurrence caused the crowd, including progenitor Wendao, to be startled. The Reaper's platform was about to appear. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Numerous figures suddenly descended from the surroundings of the pitch-black hole that had a circumference of 10 miles. These figures were all 10 feet tall. Their bodies were pitch-black, and their faces were ferocious. They had a pair of wings on their backs, and they looked like the demons of ancient legends. There were over 50 of them, and they filled the entire area. All of them had their palms together, and their ferocious faces gave off a solemn feeling. Buzz buzz buzz. It was as if these demons had come alive, as they began to chant in a low voice. The chant was not loud, but it contained a strange power. It spread out in all directions and resounded in the hearts of the countless rogue cultivators on the shore. They could not help but feel a sense of devout worship in their hearts. It was as if they had turned into their subjects, waiting to welcome their emperor. Humph! Progenitor Wendao harumphed coldly, causing the crowd's hearts to shudder. The feeling of reverence completely disappeared. Bang! All of a sudden, a towering beam of light shot out from the pitch-black hole that was dozens of miles in circumference. It broke through the clouds and pierced straight into the void. The beam of light had appeared suddenly and disappeared suddenly. In the blink of an eye, it had disappeared without a trace. Only a huge Tao platform had risen up from the pitch-black hole at some unknown time. The platform was square in shape, covering an area of 8 li and a height of 100 zhang. It was pitch-black in color and emitted a strong aura of death. The platform seemed to be divided into north, south, east, and west. From each of the 4 directions there were 999 steps. After stepping on the 999 steps, one would arrive at the center of the platform. At the center of the platform stood a pitch-black stone pillar with a length of 70 zhang and a width of 10 zhang. At the peak of the pitch-black stone pillar, there was an ancient and mysterious crystal coffin. The coffin emitted a gentle light, standing there for eternity. At that instant, the crowd, including progenitor Wendao, was lost in their thoughts after seeing the crystal coffin. The ocean of death was rumored to have been transformed by the Death Emperor 1,000 years ago. Until now, the Reaper's platform had appeared more than 10 times. Every time the rogue cultivators saw the crystal coffin, they would subconsciously think of the legend. According to the legend, the Death Emperor was lying inside the crystal coffin. For some unknown reason, the Death Emperor had fallen into a deep slumber. The reason why he was here to test his martial skill talent was because when someone's martial skill talent was strong enough, the Death Emperor would be fully awakened and reappear in the world. That being said, it was only a legend. Even progenitor Wendao and the trading alliance of the eastern continent were clueless about it. Look, it's Xiao Zhonghuang. And Yang Fengzhu and the others too. Senior brother Zhao's aura has grown even stronger. At that instant, the rogue cultivators collected their thoughts and used their techniques to observe the crowd standing at the bottom of the stairs. Progenitor Wendao, sacred leader Feiyang, Tang Qinshan, and the others glanced toward the stairs too. These authorities were more concerned about one thing, which was to see how Qin Nan was doing in the second round. As soon as they glanced toward the stairs, progenitor Wendao's crew and Tang Qingshan's crew were stunned. After taking a closer look, progenitor Wendao and sacred leader Feiyang could not help but wear pleasant smiles on their faces. The expressions of Tang Qingshan and the others changed tremendously. All the rogue cultivators present quickly realized the problem. They were all shocked and gasped in shock. Qin Nan isn't here. Chapter 468. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 470. A Familiar Aura. Everyone, I'm sorry, but according to the news, Qin Nan has accidentally fallen into the Mengpa River. It seems like the duel between the geniuses is not going to take place. The website is refreshing with fewer advertisements. I like this kind of website the most, please give it a good review. Progenitor Wendao pretended to be sad and let out a sigh. The words caused the hearts of the crowd to tremble. Mengpa River. How was Qin Nan going to survive after falling into the Mengpa River? As for falling into the river accidentally? That was impossible. Song Yu, Lu Jian, and Miao Yusen shook their heads. Qin Nan dared to oppose Progenitor Wendao on behalf of the Qinglong sacred area. There was no way he would have a good ending. Fell into the Mengpa River. The expressions on the faces of Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu mountain lord, and the others instantly froze. Mengpa River. Mengpa River again. A few hundred years ago, their junior sister had fallen into the Mengpa River too. Previously, Tang Qingshan had been attacked by the Death's Attendant on the Underworld Bridge. Their junior sister had blocked the Death's Attendant's sneak attack in order to save Tang Qingshan's life. Initially, Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu mountain lord, and the others had assumed that the Death's Attendant would not dare to act recklessly after breaking the rules. However, the Death's Attendant had made his move once again. Progenitor Wendao. Tang Qingshan's eyes instantly reddened as a boundless murderous intent burst out from his body. Progenitor Wendao must be behind the Death's Attendant to be so daring. Tang Qingshan, don't be reckless. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon suddenly reached out his hand and placed it on Tang Qingshan's shoulder, before he uttered in a low tone, Qin Nan is the saint of the Qinglong sacred area. How could he die so easily? Don't worry, he will be back at the Reaper's platform in no time. Back to the Reaper's platform. The eyes of Tang Qingshan and the others trembled, revealing a trace of confusion. That was the Mengpa River. Would Qin Nan really return? However, when Tang Qingshan and the others saw the determined look in sacred leader Qinglong's eyes despite the deathly aura, they fell silent. Please go here to read a book. Hearing this, all the cultivators shook their heads. What kind of joke was this? Falling into the Mengpa River, even a venerable one would not be able to return. Ha ha ha! Progenitor Wendao and sacred leader Feiyang burst out laughing after hearing this. They exchanged glances with one another in mid-air, resulting in a fiery explosion. The Reaper's platform had opened. As long as he waited a little longer, it would be time to strike. Sea of Death, Second Trial, Bridge of Helplessness. Qin Nan felt as if he had fallen into hell. His ears were filled with endless roars. This Death's Attendant didn't dare to use his full strength. A thought flashed across Qin Nan's mind. Although his figure was sent flying, he was only slightly injured, thus his strength was still present. He swiftly scanned his surroundings, and his scalp turned numb with a glimpse. Countless dead spirits were filled with excitement. They opened their bloody mouths wide and charged at Qin Nan's figure. Demonic art of heart calming and sweeping. Qin Nan uttered a roar as he summoned a giant bell, which encapsulated his figure. The countless dead spirits slammed into the giant bell, resulting in a series of explosions, causing the entire bell to tremble violently. Sky thunder. Qin Nan's left eye fired countless rays of lightning that encapsulated the bell. Any dead souls that approached the bell were instantly destroyed by the lightning. This won't do, there are too many dead souls in this Mengpa River. I have to escape from here as soon as possible. Qin Nan glanced at the immeasurably deep crimson river and clenched his teeth. He executed the demonic art of heart calming and prepared to return to the Bridge of Helplessness with the help of the bell and the lightning. However, the number of dead spirits surrounding him continued to increase, which formed a barrier in the sky, causing his figure to fall to the ground. Even with Qin Nan's 33 dragon-line nascent soul, he could not break through it. The reason being that there were too many dead souls. Bang! 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 As the dead souls collided with each other, Qin Nan's figure was slowly pushed deeper into the Mengpa River. His surroundings were filled with crimson water and countless dead souls. Damn it! Qin Nan's expression changed as he continued to attack with the sky thunder. Even though his attacks were powerful, with each strike being enough to shatter more than 10 dead souls into pieces, it was still a drop in the bucket compared to the hundreds of millions of dead souls. Copper mirror! Qin Nan let out a roar. He clearly knew that there was no way he could escape from this place with his own strength. However, the copper mirror in his divine sense remained silent, as if it did not hear Qin Nan's roar. Damn it, why isn't the copper mirror reacting at such a crucial moment? If this goes on, my cultivation base will be completely depleted by this undead spirit. Qin Nan quickly pondered, but failed to come up with a conclusion. Roar! Roar! At that instant 2 shocking roars could be heard all of a sudden. Among the countless dead souls, 2 enormous dead souls with crimson eyes sprang toward Qin Nan's figure with a ferocious aura. Half-Martial Highness Realm dead souls? Qin Nan's expression changed tremendously. The dead souls he was dealing with were only at the Martial Emperor realm and Martial Ancestor realm. He did not expect a Half-Martial Highness realm to appear. Half-Martial Highness realm. Kill! Qin Nan let out a roar and drew out the ancient saber Ira, which emitted a shocking saber intent as he engaged in a fierce battle with the 2 dead souls. The 2 dead souls were not afraid of using martial arts, artifacts, or martial skills despite their cultivations. However, they were constantly knocked back by Qin Nan's saber intent. Roar! 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 However, that was not the end of it. Over 20 Half-Martial Highness Realm dead souls joined the battle and charged toward Qin Nan. It's almost impossible to escape now. If that's the case, let's fight then. Qin Nan clenched his teeth as his battle intent was fully unleashed. It was as if he had turned into a battle puppet as he continued to swing his saber and slash downward. The glow of the 33 dragon-lined nascent soul in his body gradually dimmed as the battle continued, causing Qin Nan's body to feel weak. Could it be that I'm going to die here? The thought surfaced in Qin Nan's mind. He suddenly recalled how Tang Qinshan had knelt before him at the Xianling clan, how the sacred Lord Blue Dragon had been engulfed in a deathly aura, how the Longhu ancestor beast, Sima Kong, Gong Yang, and finally Princess Miao Miao. If he were to die here, how could he face the expectations of the people who had been waiting for him? Fight! Qin Nan uttered a raging roar as his hair danced wildly. A shocking battle intent burst out from his body as he stared into the sky. Fight! 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 A series of explosions took place in the Mengpa River. Qin Nan continued to fight. He had no idea how long the battle had lasted, or how many times he had swung his saber. He only knew that the number of dead souls before him was endless. Even when he was worn out and fainted, there was still no sign of any light being emitted from the dead souls. Qin Nan opened his mouth and was about to say something, but the great fatigue completely devoured his thoughts. The giant bell and the thunderbolts that were emitted from his body vanished as well. The surrounding dead souls uttered roars and charged forward in a frenzy, trying to tear Qin Nan's figure into pieces. How bold! At that instant a rare occurrence took place, as an imperious roar exploded. The figures of the dead souls, even those of the Half-Martial Highness realm, stiffened as if they had encountered something terrifying. Their eyes were filled with terror as they held their heads and fled for their lives. In the blink of an eye, not a single dead soul was left among the countless dead souls. Only the Crimson River remained. Chapter 469. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 471 Gong Yang's Martial Spirit. Meanwhile, on the Reaper's platform in the Ocean of Death. -79 The Death's servant glanced at progenitor Wendao and the others in the distance with a grin on his face, before he yelled, "This is the Reaper's platform. There are 2 trials here. The first trial is to pass the 999 steps. Only after passing the stairs will you be able to place your hand on the black pillar and test your martial spirit's rank. His voice was extremely loud, which felt like a shocking clap of thunder on the ocean of death. Even the crowd at the shore could hear it clearly. Let's begin. The Death's servant uttered the command. Xiao Zhonghuang placed his hands behind himself and walked up the stairs while being surrounded by Yang Fengzhu and the others like an emperor of the lower district. The hearts of the crowd rose to their throats at the same time. A first-grade D-ranked martial spirit. Not to mention the enhancement from the heart of Bodhi and the Tao liquid. What kind of martial skill talent would Xiao Zhonghuang receive? Do any of you have any herbs that can improve one's martial skill talent? Gong Yang suddenly snapped as his eyes emitted a sharp glow. Princess Miao Miao, the Longhu ancestor beast, and the others were startled. What did Gong Yang mean by saying that? I'm afraid Qin Nan will need some time to return. Gong Yang calmly said, before he returns I'll deal with Xiao Zhonghuang. Perhaps Qin Nan won't even need to deal with him. Hearing this, Princess Miao Miao and the others were astounded. Where did this Gong Yang get his confidence from? Everyone knew that Xiao Zhonghuang possessed a first-grade D-ranked martial spirit. The Death's servant standing on the Reaper's platform mocked after hearing the words, only the herbs from the Ocean of Death are effective on the Reaper's platform. Almost all the books you want to read are available. It's more stable than the normal websites, and the updates are faster too. There are no advertisements. Herbs from the outside world that can improve one's martial skill talent are useless regardless of how many of them you consume. Hearing this, Gong Yang squinted his eyes and nodded his head after a while. Since he could not use the herbs, he shall decide the outcome with his martial spirit. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Gong Yang's figure flashed and landed on the stairs. He walked up step by step. His actions immediately attracted the attention of Xiao Zhonghuang and the crowd. Who is that guy? Why haven't I seen him before? Could he be the new genius of the Qinglong sacred area? That's strange. If he's a famous genius, we should know him. Progenitor Wendao and sacred leader Feiyang frowned after seeing this. It took them so much effort to eliminate Qin Nan. Why was there another genius here now? On the Reaper's platform, Xiao Zhonghuang let out a hollow laugh after seeing Gong Yang's action. Trying to fight me again? I wonder if your martial spirit is 7th grade Xian ranked or 8th grade Xian ranked. In Xiao Zhonghuang's eyes, someone like Gong Yang would at most possess an 8th grade Xian ranked martial spirit. Love go little say ku after all, a genius with a 10th grade Xian ranked martial spirit would not be a nobody. Is that so? Gong Yang's eyes turned cold as he took a step forward. A brilliant golden glow was emitted from his back. Within the golden glow, 9 ancient figures could be seen, emitting a terrifying aura. At that instant, the expressions of Xiao Zhonghuang, the Death's servant, and the others changed tremendously. The faces of progenitor Wendao, sacred leader Feiyang, and the crowd of rogue cultivators shuddered violently. A ray of golden light. This kid's martial spirit is 1st grade D ranked? Ocean of Death, 2nd trial, Mengpa River. Qin Nan felt like he had fallen into a deep abyss. After a while, a blinding light was fired into his mind, causing him to wake up as his eyes slowly opened. As soon as Qin Nan opened his eyes, he saw a gray sky, causing him to be startled. Where am I? Am I dead? Just as his mind was filled with confusion, a faint voice rang in his ears. You're awake. Qin Nan was startled, who immediately raised his head and saw a woman sitting on a stone bench 3 zhang away from him, fiddling with a tea set in her hands. The woman had long black hair that reached the ground. Her facial features were attractive, and a calm aura was emitted from her body, causing one to never feel bored looking at her. You are. Qin Nan's eyes were filled with doubts. He immediately recalled something and inspected his body, only to discover that his 33 golden dragon-lined nascent soul was still circulating, while his heart was beating vigorously. In other words, he was still alive. Did she save my life? A thought popped up in Qin Nan's mind. Before Qin Nan could ask, the woman waved her hand, causing a few badges to appear in her hand, before she calmly said, "What's your relationship with Tang Qingshan?" The badges were none other than the badges that the Imperial Exterminator, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, and the others had given to Qin Nan. Qin Nan was startled, before a sudden thought crossed his mind. Tang Qingshan. Who else was related to Tang Qingshan at the Ocean of Death? She was none other than the junior sister of Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, and the others from a few hundred years ago. Qin Nan remembered that senior Tang Qingshan had mentioned that his junior sister had been ambushed, causing her to become a dead spirit of the Ocean of Death. However, judging from the appearance of the woman before him, why did she not seem like a dead spirit at all? "Senior, I'm from the Qinglong sacred area." Qin Nan pondered for a moment, before he asked in a probing manner, "Senior, are you Senior Tang Qingshan's junior sister?" The woman was slightly startled, and a trace of recollection appeared on her exquisite face without makeup. Not only was she recalling the past few months, but she was also trying to recall something else. "How's the Qinglong sacred area now?" The woman did not answer Qin Nan's question, but asked in a calm tone instead. After seeing her reaction, Qin Nan was certain that this woman was the junior sister of Tang Qingshan and the others. As for the reason behind her reaction, he would have to wait for her to explain herself. Qin Nan did not hide anything, as he immediately explained everything that had happened to the Qinglong sacred area. Progenitor Wendao, the Death's attendant, sacred leader Feiyang. The woman's eyes turned cold as a shocking aura was emitted from her body. "It's been 100 years. A few hundred years. They are still plotting against Godfather. They are still plotting against the Qinglong sacred area. That's great, that's great." The entire place began to tremble following the woman's fury. Qin Nan's expression turned pale. He did not expect the woman's aura to be so powerful. Her aura greatly surpassed the Death's attendants. What exactly was going on? After a while, the woman slowly withdrew her aura. She glanced at Qin Nan with her charming eyes and calmly said, "My name is Meng Jiangnu, the adopted daughter of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, and Tang Qingshan's junior sister. That being said, that's my previous identity. As for my current identity, I'm the spirit of the Mengpa River." As the last few words were spoken, the entire world underwent an earth-shattering change. Chapter 470. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 472. 6th grade D rank. Qin Nan raised his head and discovered that the entire sky was dyed red. The river was flowing rapidly, and countless dead souls could be seen rolling in it. For more information, visit www. In other words, he was currently under the Mengpa River. The spirit of the Mengpa River? Qin Nan took a deep breath and spoke in a confused tone. That's right, the Ocean of Death, the Bloodshed Tomb, the Underworld Bridge, the Mengpa River, and the Burial Ground all have their own unique spirits. Meng Jiangnu's voice was not pleasant to the ears, but it was like a cool breeze that blew into one's heart. We are different from the Death's attendant. The Death's attendant was personally appointed by the Death Emperor when he was alive, while we were chosen by the Fays themselves. Otherwise, I would have killed the Death's servants long ago. Qin Nan immediately came to a realization after hearing this. No wonder this Death servant dared to break the rules. It turned out that no one in the Ocean of Death was able to punish him. "Senior, I'm going out," Qin Nan said with a stern look. "I'm going to the Reaper's platform to change the tide of the battle. Can you do it?" Meng Jiangnu cast a side glance at him with a confused look. According to Qin Nan, Xiao Zhonghuang possessed a first-grade D-ranked martial spirit, and with the help of the Death's servant, his martial skill talent was extremely terrifying. Of course. Qin Nan let out a calm smile as 5 golden rays flickered from his back. This is, Meng Jiangnu's eyes were filled with astonishment. Even though it was only for a brief moment, she was certain that this Qin Nan possessed a 5th-grade D-ranked martial spirit. How significant was a 5th-grade D-ranked martial spirit? He would be considered a genius in the eastern continent of the Upper District. Who would have thought that a peerless genius like you would appear in our Qinglong sacred area? Meng Jiangnu's eyes flickered with excitement. However, I'll help you leave after I'm done with something. Advertisement. Finish a task. Qin Nan frowned. There are various spirit elixirs that can increase one's martial skill talent and cultivation resources in this storage pouch. You can take them. Meng Jiang said with a calm expression. As for me, I will refine myself into a saber. After Meng Jiangnu finished saying those words, she waved her hand, and an enormous furnace appeared before her. Around the furnace were various ancient stones and iron pieces. They were mysterious and had powerful auras. They were all materials used to forge divine weapons. Before Qin Nan could speak, Meng Jiangnu had waved her hand and said indifferently, as the spirit of the Mengpa River, I'm unable to leave the ocean of death. Only by refining myself into a weapon would I be able to escape this shackle. Senior, please don't do anything rash. As long as I get to the Reaper's platform, I can get the rebirth token and save you. Qin Nan immediately panicked. Not only was he here to stop the Feiyang sacred area, he was also here to fulfill the Imperial Exterminator's request. I know the rebirth token can save me. Meng Jiangnu said in a calm tone. However, this world is cruel and realistic. The rank of a martial spirit is like an uncrossable gap, which has destroyed the dreams of countless people. Only by acquiring a powerful succession can one alter their destiny and change their martial spirit. When I became the spirit of the Mengpa River, I learned something. Tang Qingshan's future is to conquer the entire Kanglan continent. I want to accompany him, but my martial skill talent is not enough. Only by becoming a saber and accompanying him in his battles can I achieve eternity. Saying this, a smile appeared on Meng Jiangnu's face, as if hundreds of flowers had blossomed in this dark world. Her figure leapt into the furnace, and with a wave of her hands, the materials were all absorbed into it. She opened her mouth and spat out a black netherworld flame, which engulfed her figure and swept across the entire furnace. Within the glow of the flame, her smile was extremely alluring. After seeing this, Qin Nan was utterly dumbfounded. Previously, when he was in the Xianling clan, Tang Qingshan had lowered his head, which he had refused to do for hundreds of years, in exchange for a glimmer of hope. Now, Meng Jiangnu had been wandering in the Mengpa River for 100 years, using her own strength to refine the godly saber. Her only goal was to accompany Tang Qingshan for the rest of his life. Senior, don't worry, I won't let them get away with it at the Reaper's platform. Qin Nan wore a stern expression as he brought his fists together toward Meng Jiangnu, before he glanced at the storage bag. He was given a great fright following a glimpse. Inside the storage bag were various kinds of treasures, which were piled up into a small mountain. The glow of the treasures flickered. 16,000 primary stones, 2 hearts of Bodhi, a drop of Tao liquid. Qin Nan's voice was trembling. The hearts of Bodhi and the Tao liquid were both elixirs that could improve one's martial skill talent. On top of that, these 16,000 primary stones, together with the primary stones he already had, made a total of 20,000 primary stones. Could these 20,000 primary stones be enough to improve the divine battle spirit? I'm afraid Senior Meng Jiangnu will need another hour. If that's the case, I'll focus on improving myself. Qin Nan took a deep breath to calm his thoughts. He first consumed the hearts of Bodhi and the Tao liquid. After consuming the 2 elixirs, Qin Nan did not feel anything special. He only felt his energy growing stronger. Time to consume the primary stones. Qin Nan reached out his hand and grabbed the primary stones, before stuffing them into his mouth. 100, 200, 800, 2000. Qin Nan's hands summoned countless illusionary figures as he continued to consume the primary stones. After consuming 20,000 primary stones, his body had produced 66 streams of chaos qi. On top of that, the divine battle spirit behind him finally uttered a shocking roar. Bang! Among the 5 golden rays, the 6th ray was emitted. The divine battle spirit had ranked up to the 6th grade D rank. Time to improve the nascent soul. Qin Nan immediately directed 30 streams of chaos qi into the nascent soul. The aura of the nascent soul skyrocketed. The 33 golden dragon runes coiling around the nascent soul slowly melted and combined into a single dragon rune. However, this dragon tattoo was no longer gold, but purple. Furthermore, the pair of dragon eyes seemed to be shining with the light of human intelligence. Qin Nan's martial arts had a breakthrough once again, reaching the next level. Keep going. Qin Nan clenched his teeth and fired another 6 streams of chaos qi. This time, the chaos qi did not cause any changes to the nascent soul. Qin Nan could feel that his strange nascent soul had reached its limit. Qin Nan raised his eyebrows. He could vaguely sense a scorching sensation coming from the nascent soul, as if it was about to leave his body and soar into the sky. It seems like I'm about to have a breakthrough. Qin Nan's face was filled with joy. He was finally going to have a breakthrough. Ever since he had overcome the tribulation at the Qinglong sacred area, even though his strength was equivalent to the peak martial dominator realm, he had not been able to have a breakthrough. Qin Nan swiftly glanced at Meng Jiangnu and saw a pitch-black saber lying inside the cauldron. Although the saber did not emit any aura, it possessed an indescribable sharpness. It was as if nothing in this world, even the endless flow of time, could stop it. A godly saber. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. The saber was no longer comparable to a mystical weapon. Buzz. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.